of Injustice, and later Adam Hills Tonight.
What do these two great clubs have in common?
Oh, Rakawasa in the tackle, turnover, and Angers made him pay.
Well, they're both hungry for another premiership. It's been a couple of years since the Eagles held the trophy aloft, and a staggering half-century since South Adelaide tasted premiership glory. But today, South and the Eagles come together having shared one of the greatest coaches of recent years.
There it is! The Eagles win in 2006!
Ron Fuller spent 9 years at the helm of Woodville West Torrens, taking them to their first premiership in 13 years before retiring in 2009. But before the whiteboard was even cold, former Woodville coach John Reid dragged Fuller from his short retirement and back into coaching. Ron's plan was simple: to take South to the finals again, something he achieved after just 3 seasons at the wheel. Entering round 11, the Panthers are now struggling at the bottom of the ladder, but good wins over Sturt and Glenelg have kept them alive in 2013. The Eagles' form is hot and cold, but they've already beaten the ladder leaders at the parade. It remains to be seen which team Michael Godden will bring to Noarlunga Oval. We're just about halfway through the minor round. It's South Adelaide versus the Eagles.
And the former Eagles coach, Ronnie Fuller, plotting the downfall of his old club this afternoon. And the Panthers, well, they really do have to plot something pretty clever because they haven't won a game at home this season. And Ron Fuller against Michael Godden as a coach is down 6-3 in terms of the winning run. So a big afternoon for those at Noarlunga as they take on the Eagles, and it's hardly been a fortress this season, has it, Andrew Rogers?
No, you need to fiercely protect your home oval. We really need to make the most of these opportunities, grab these home games and try to pinch some away games basically. But for South, unfortunately, it hasn't been a happy hunting ground down here at Noarlunga.
And what was it like in your time, Andrew? Because if we go back over time, we know you're a premiership player with the Eagles way back in 1993.
Yeah, a long time ago now, Neil. It doesn't feel as though it's that long ago, but look, this was one of the best days in my footy career, I suppose. We had a fantastic group of young and experienced players, and unfortunately Norwood had done it hard and come from a long way back, from 4th or 5th, I think, that year, but also it was a 6-day break. They played on the Sunday preliminary final in a grand final on the Saturday, and they were very tired, and we were peaking at the right time. It was a great day for the footy club.
We talk about more modern times, if you like, and for South and the Eagles, the last time they met, it was a thumping for South Adelaide from the Eagles. The Eagles at that stage looking like they could do anything this season.
Yeah, and I still think that potential is probably still there. You can see it's, the potential in their group is immense. Now, they've lost some senior players from last year, but you can see in just these highlights here, the quality of player that's available to them. You think that they would be, maybe a little bit high in the premiership table. If you're a South Adelaide supporter, you're probably looking at this and thinking, well, it's probably not a great deal of effort here, and the quality of goals and how easy the goals came is a concern, and that would be Ron Fuller's concerns.
114 points was the margin in this game. Hard to believe the Eagles are a side that this season have beaten Norwood and they've beaten West Adelaide, top 3 sides, and pretty much the favourites, I suppose, to play in the grand final at this early stage. And yet at the same time, last week they lost to the Double Blues. For South Adelaide last weekend, it was a loss badly, and I suppose predictable, down at Albert and to Port Adelaide, who are resurgent this season.
Yeah, they're certainly emerging under Ken McGregor down there. They certainly had a slow start to the year, and a game we did here where they were able to get over the line against the Bays. They've gained some confidence from that game, and they're continuing just to roll along, and you can see they're just starting to win some games they should be winning.
We'll have a good look at that match from last Sunday at quarter time. The other match from last Sunday, the aforementioned Sturt v Eagles game, and of all the losses for South Adelaide, for the Eagles, I think this one was worse and more deflating.
Yeah, I would expect round 1 of the year, Sturt led the Eagles comfortably at half-time at Unley Oval, and you really thought they played an exciting brand of footy. They moved the ball quickly. thought, Sturt are here to play. The Eagles obviously weren't switched on this day. I think their best is better than Sturt's best over 4 quarters. That's no disrespect to Sturt, but they just didn't come to play.
So double Blues by 6 goals, and again we'll have a look at that at quarter time. At 3/4 time we'll have a look at the Monday game from last weekend, the long weekend of course. So the Tigers taking on the Roosters down at the Bay. In many ways a predictable result, and the Roosters ended up winning by near 10 goals, but only through 2 quarters of effort, really.
Yeah, and that would be the concern for Josh Franco out of this game. Their best is very good. For the Bays, they're just they're in a bit of trouble at the moment. They just can't find a spark.
3/4 time we'll have a look at that. So after 10 rounds of SANFL football, there is the league ladder. I think still we predict that Norwood North and West Adelaide will probably fill those top 3 spots. Then you've got Eagles, Centrals, Port, Glenelg, Sturt, and even if they win today, I would have thought South Adelaide still with the prospect of getting into the top 5.
Yeah, you would think so. The 39% is a concern. That's virtually ensuring they need to win another game or have to have significant wins coming into the end of the year.
There's the full round. We'll keep you up to date, of course, with the scores across there at Alberton as the traditional rivals go head-to-head. Port Adelaide taking on Norwood. And then tomorrow, 2 games with Sturt hosting Glenelg at Unley. And obviously, as we looked at that table, it becomes critical for both sides to get a win there. Particularly the form of the Bays leaves them vulnerable, I would have thought. And then North taking on Central District at Prospect, and Westies with the bye. Let's go down for the first time this afternoon to Benny Knights on the boundary, and Nida for South Adelaide. Firstly, they've made some interesting selections.
Yeah, afternoon, Crossy. Look, one of those selections was forced upon them during the week. They've lost their second ruck forward, whose Crows listed as well, out to Central Districts this time, and Big Ben Dowdell. So he's gone to Centrals right across town, looking for more opportunities out there, and perhaps, I guess, the role that the Crows would like him to be playing. Ronnie Fuller's also made 3 other changes, dropping some experience in the likes of Stribling, McDonald, and also Eddie. So 3 experienced guys out. 2 of the fellas he's brought in, though, today, both debutants. From mine, I think that maybe Ron Fuller's just starting to get a little bit frustrated with some of the inconsistency of his team.
Not so much patience. We're just looking for the guys to play a certain way, and there's been bits and pieces of it, but the blokes that are playing well in the reserves have deserved their chance as much as anything.
And speaking of those boys coming up, there's a couple of debutants today, a couple of young kids that have come through the club. Really exciting to see new blood coming through to the league time.
It is, mate, and one of the things that the club hasn't had is a legacy of local players coming through on a consistent basis, and for Joe Haynes, who's a father-son, his father and grandfather both played over 100 games for the club, is terrific to see, and young Caleb Daniels come through the 16s, 18s reserves all within 12 months, and he's an exciting little footballer too.
And it's great to see that he's developing down here. They have struggled for junior development over a number of years, trying to create the culture down here. Look, they're being led in the midfield by Joel Cross and Nick Liddell again this year in the top 10 in their possessions, but they certainly need some of these the next 4 or 5 midfielders to step up to win today's game.
Nida, now here's a question. Jekyll or Hyde, which club is going to turn up for the Eagles this afternoon?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, 4 changes as well for the Eagles today. I guess a couple of those changes important for them in the fact that Campbell Heath and also Kane Mitchell have both come back from the power. So there are a couple of really good ins, especially on a wet, slippery day. They'll be great at ground level. One big one, though, for mine, Craig Parry, whilst he wasn't perhaps at his best last week, during the week at training, injured his collarbone. So perhaps a bit of time on the sidelines for Craig Parry, and that will also frustrate the Eagles. But you're exactly right. They have been inconsistent. They've only won 1 of their last 4 games since they beat South in round 6. So it'll be important to see who rocks up today. And as far as Ron Fuller goes, making those changes, some of them have been forced on him, as I said, but it's just something he's had to do.
Yeah, look, it's always nice to get a little bit of quality back in the side, and last week we were really disappointed, and we've had a big week on the track, lots of very aggressive training, and I am expecting a response.
Last week Graham and Kurtz took you apart a little bit in ruck. Losing Parry again today, is that a big concern for you?
Yeah, it is. We've got Sam Hindress and Mark Warholm, so we've got 2 big lads that are, they're young and developing, but Paz got injured on Wednesday night, and make no excuses for that. We needed to make a stance, and those lads have got their opportunity today.
They're averaging 99 points per game, so scoring's not really the issue. It's the defensive action is where they've been scored against, which is really causing concern. I suggest during the week it's been around tackling, winning contested ball, making sure they compete strongly in the middle, and they should be led in that area by Luke Powell and Angus Roundtree. They're 2 hard bodies. A wet, windy day, or not so much windy, but a wet day today will certainly suit those 2 players.
Go down for the coin toss now. Robert Dipio Domenico, the former premiership player with Hawthorn and AFL spruiker extraordinaire, doing the honours this afternoon. And at last a win for South Adelaide at Noarlunga. They've won the toss. They can take anything they can out of that. And let's go to Nida as to what it means. They're kicking to the northern end of the ground.
Well, interesting choice that. There's very little wind today, but the northern end of the ground is probably the end that's more waterlogged. There's some puddling water. It's very slippery. There's a few little mud patches out there. So I've done a bit of a reconnoitre and found that northern end to be very, very boggy and very, very slippery. As far as the weather goes, the rain has cleared up now. It's predicting isolated showers. There's been a lot of rain this morning, no doubt. Partly cloudy, and it is partly cloudy at the moment, only 16 degrees, but the good news for the Noarlunga fans and I guess the footballers out there, very little wind at the moment. So a slippery day, but can't wait for a great contest.
Enjoy your afternoon, Puddles. We have a look at South Adelaide just breaking now. An average losing margin this season, 57 points, of course. Beaten by 114 points by the Eagles last time out. Ronnie Fuller, it would stick in his craw that he's lost by that margin to his former club.
Yeah, his reputation he forged at the Eagles was about tough, hard, one-on-one football. It wasn't about, and what he aspired to was, that's what finals footy was about. So if he could condition his team to play that type of football, well, they were ready for finals footy. I just don't see that in the South group, I suppose, and that's what he would find the most frustrating, is that they're not competing as strongly, not playing with the energy and the discipline that he would demand.
What about the Eagles quickly? Take a line through this. They're scoring 99 points a game. They're number 2 attack in the competition, but when they lose, their average score is only 65 points. When they win, their average score is 126. Huge margin of difference.
It is, and I suggest probably the midfield's a little bit too proactive and probably sort of accountability, but also they're exposing their defence too readily, and that maybe with turnovers as they go forward. But also, I'm expecting them to be more combative in the middle, and I think that should be led by Luke Powell and Angus Roundtree today. And that's where I think they'll have the edge today, is around that. And, Ronnie would be ready for that. He would understand that probably hasn't got the big bodies in the midfield that probably the Eagles have got. So he's going to have to try to get it on the outside.
Well, as you can see, players breaking and just about ready for a start here at Noarlunga. It is South Adelaide taking on the Eagles, both last up losers. They'll be looking for a win this afternoon. Let's go to Chris Kendall.
Certainly will be. Toby Medlin, Andrew Crosby, Patrick Lally, the men in white today. 4th versus bottom. Football is certainly a great leveler though. Eagles found that out last week when Sturt dominating all day to move themselves off the bottom of the ladder. Can South Adelaide do the same here? Find out in 2.5 hours here on ABC 1, your home of SANFL. Luke Jarrod out the wing there. Nick Murphy's gone to him. Jarrod's only averaged 12 disposals over the last 2 weeks. Really needs to lift. Barometer for the Eagles. Hindus. Brooksby gets the tap down to Gotch. He was taken high on the tackle. Umpire agrees. It's back in the 1-2 now with Little. So important to the Mick Little with those centre clearances. Spots up the skipper in Thulis. Well cut off out there by Raymond, however, for the Eagles. Caleb Daniel on the mark, 16 years of age. Good luck, young man. Goes back to Heath. Campbell Heath, switching across the ground, looking for Gafrida and finds him. Got one-on-one contests all up the ground. Staple goes on a long lead towards grandstand wing. Looks to go shorter to Thompson. So Luke Thompson, another player who's been a bit down on form, averaging only 12 disposals himself in the last 5 weeks, brings it inboard to the skipper in Powell. Gets it back in the 1-2 with Thompson, poking it further down the lines. He was searching for Jarrod. Redagolo mops up for South Adelaide, and he was dealt with after disposal. It's going to be a free to the Panthers further down the field, and it'll go to young Daniel. So unless he has a kick of 80 metres on him, he won't join the first kick in SANFL with a goal. Unloads deep in towards the attacking zone, spots up Wonky on the chest. Great start there for Wonky, good start for Daniel too, Andrew.
Yeah, it was, and it was just a beautifully weighted kick into space, but it was a long period of time there for the Eagles midfielders to push back in that hole, and they didn't push back in that hole and help out their fullback.
So Michael Wonky trailing Andrew Ainger by 1 goal in the battle for the Ken Farmer medal. Former teammates last year, of course. Wonky really needs a good start here, as do South Adelaide. They're kicking from right on the point of 50. It's on its way. Just hits the post on the way through. Minor score. South bench, Benny Knights.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, Daniel Bass will be important today as that extra body, that second ruckman. Shannon Snook and also Nick Schwartz for this South Adelaide team.
Nick Schwartz. So Peter Schwartz, a former Eagles premiership captain. On centre wing for the Eagles, Mitchell inside forward 50, looking for Salter. Couldn't get rid of his man. Cleverly done by Fields, but then it's back in the hands of the Eagles. And into the forward pocket of Ainger, who'll just watch it really go across the line as we have a look at the Eagles bench now.
Yeah, Goldsworthy, Kane and also Big Ballholm.
Waiting on the throw-in. South Adelaide with the lead at home. I mean, there has been no wins down here. Nathan Daniel, just the soccer. Luke Powell with the mark. And quickly off to Heath, and Heath goes from just inside 50 and pulls it across his body for the minor score.
Yeah, they look here now to really stretch up and push up and try to hold this board and get repetitive inside 50s. You can see they're just their forward line, with Staple, Ainger and Salter. So they can actually get control of the footy in the midfield. They are very dangerous.
Fields kicks it to himself, brings it inboard. Flying for the mark there was Brooksby, just slipped through his fingers. Hine just happy enough to see it over the boundary line. South have to be mindful of Campbell Heath. Of course, he plays that sweeping role for Port Adelaide in the AFL, Andrew. Very hard to match up on and can get plenty of loose possession. Pye brings it inboard. Working his way through there was Murphy. Leading in the race for the pill there is Brown, but it beats them again over the boundary line. Sense it's going to be a fairly scrappy game today. Ground's in very good condition. Had a good wander around the middle and around the wings pre-game. Certainly no mud to be seen out there. Credit to the Noongar Oval staff. Tap down. South trying to work their way through. Illegal push. It's going to be to Redagolo. Yes, he's trying to milk a 25. They're saying it wasn't given back to him on the full. He was backing away at the time. Nice try, Tarek. Getting it further down the lines. Over the shoulder there on Crabb. So he's starting well away from his normal role in defence. Pokes it in towards that forward pocket. Looking down there for Wonke. Bundles it over the boundary line. We're going to have a throw.
Wonke, if you just noticed as he took the ball across the line, still chewing on the gum every week.
It's amazing, isn't it? No mouth guard. Certainly a prerequisite, certainly for junior football these days.
I would have thought chewing gum with a mouth guard would be even harder. As Archie picks it up, screws it down to the goal face. Punch comes to the front, hack out of mid-air. Daniel gets it off to Wonke over the shoulder for the minor score.
Caleb, good to see Caleb Daniel involved early as a 16-year-old. If he's 68 kilos, I don't reckon he's 68 kilos.
You've blown out then, have you? Is that what you're saying?
Look at him, he's not much of him there. He needs to get in the way through.
First 68 kilos, I'm not going near the scales for the rest of the year. Eagles bring it back inboard. Good fly from Thompson. Judged it well. Thompson again keeping it on this grandstand side where it meets with Summerton, another debutant. Not his greatest of kicks. Set up well for Paulo, takes a strong mark. Panthers had the numbers there, Andrew. Would have thought they would have tried to get the fist in. Paul looking for Goldsworthy. Good work from Daniel to cut it off. Boundary throw in. Noticing pre-game though, those Burleigh footballs, they really seem to hold the water a little bit. Makes it fairly heavy. It's more used to the Sherrans, of course, growing up. Umpire throwing it in. Ballholm could have got into the back there of Brooksby. Umpire let that one go. Another ball up. So it's in the Eagles' attacking zone. Trailing by the minor score. Ballholm, Brooksby. Letter gets the tap down. Trying to work his way through his Kane. Boundary line beats him. Another throw in.
Brooksby, responsible in large part for the fact South Adelaide #1 in hit-outs and also #2 in clearances by just a tad behind the Eagles. Here's Brooksby, almost got it clear. We'll get a ball up surely.
So Interesting here from Mark-Borough. He hasn't got as big as body as Brooksby, and he's trying to body him. You're better off. See there, Brooksby's always generally going to win that, I suppose, other than that one there, because he is a bigger body. He's going to protect the spot of the ball. Third man up. See if you can get a third man up at this contest. Maybe knock the ball forward and get some players running onto it.
No, they're content to let the ruckman go at it. Ball doesn't go far from the tall trees, but eventually Eagles work it backwards. They'll go inside 50 and high. Fancy Jared at the back here. He's a chance, and he is. Hands and knees, back he went. On the snap went Carey across the face of the goals, and reading it early was Staple, but he couldn't pull it in, and may have socketed that. No, I thought maybe he'd socketed that over on the full, but they'll get another stoppage in the forward pocket left. Will the Eagles.
So Lee Staples come back into the side last week. It was okay in that return hit out. Just needs a bit of support for Andrew Ainger more than anything else, Michael Godden. He sees that Staple is the man after spending much of the season in the reserves. Of course, it's a small matter of Adam Groke to come back into this lineup also. Plenty of congestion around the ball. Ainger gets the tap down. Mitchell is searching for it. Redagolo tries to shovel it out. Another pack situation develops. Gotch in the middle of that. Another ball up. So no team really able to get an ascendancy at this point. Plenty of stoppages. Trying to shut down the run. Both teams. South Adelaide very good on the outside run. Fields almost got into the back of Salter, I thought there, but umpires let that go. Poole works it backwards by hand. He's looking for Powell. Again, the play spent so much time out wide that it's a lot of boundary throw-ins today, so the many wide on the boundary earning their keep today. Brooksby and Ainger. To the advantage of Brooksby, if anything. Mitchell, Redagolo, another stoppage, another ball up. Neil, I am 99% certain you can extract it.
It's hard to get a kick at the moment, hard to get any clean possession at all. Two ruckmen go at it again. Brooksby throws it out of there. And the ball partly smothered, so it wasn't clean. Mitchell got a handball of sorts out. Now with the tackle, still the ball held in close. Lots of numbers. Goldsworthy taken to ground. Umpire said okay. Redagolo may have had a claim for being held without the ball. The umpire dismissed it, said give it to me again. More stoppages. Take a stat on this. More stoppages inside 50 in the first 10 minutes of this match than in any other game this season. Here's Poole round the corner. Ball goes over the line. And the accidental, in inverted commas, fumble by Hartigan. So it's only around 20 metres from the goal face for the Eagles. Right now, the scoreline reads like a soccer game. 2-1 in favour of South. Ainger got rid of his man. That was tapped out. Hartigan, interesting hand pass. Now, first to react there was Kane. Kane onto the ball, keeps it low, minus score. Scores are level. 10 minutes gone, 4 scores, 2 behinds apiece.
That tells you a little bit about it. I think South have actually started all right. They've only won one first quarter for the year out of the 9 games they've played. So I think Ron would be fairly pleased that at least they're competing strongly.
2 12s going at it. Slipping in there is Brown for South Adelaide. 11 minutes of football nearly, and we've only had 44 disposals. Certainly sums up that stoppage situation. Corey Ogilvie working feverishly on the stats as always. Brooksby, Borholm. And he gets the tap down. He was looking for Goldsworthy, but there's been an infringement in there. It's going to go to South Adelaide through Schwartz. Through Schwartz, I should say. Hands it off to Cross. Cross further down the line. He was looking for Crabb. Crabb playing a long way up the ground at the moment. We don't see him in attack normally. He's only kicked the 1 goal in 98 SANFL matches. So Ron Fuller trying to pull a rabbit out of the hat early. Spins back in. Now he's in the ruck. He's playing all positions this year. Mitchell happy to see it over the boundary line.
I don't mind that, actually. Just releases a player. Normally he's a defender. He can have a go up forward. He can perform a defensive action as a centre-half forward, but he's just got a really competitive nature, and I suppose that's all Ron would be looking for him, is just to compete strongly.
Borholm is getting the tap down. He's looking for Roundtree, but Little dropped in and shovelled out a handball. Kane, Jared just hacks it away up towards centre-half forward. Plenty of numbers down here with the Panthers. Getting the handball away there was Fields. Comes back inboard. touch of the fumbles there was Snook. Fields again. Brings it out into the wing. Oh, good strong mark taken then by Daniel the first game. I love that sort of stuff.
Caleb Daniel, quick to play on. Squares the ball dangerously. It was knocked away by Jared. Redigolo on the other end of it. Sent it wide, third and the best and fairest out here at Redigolo last season. Brooksby then to Archie. And Archie backs up at right half forward. Just waiting. He gets a long lead from Crab. And Crab, oh gee, almost took that. Appleton to ground, Crab over the top. It's still, well, they finally emerged with the ball, South Adelaide. Daniel involved again. Got it out to cross, slipped a tackle, lost the ball. And it is sloppy football from both sides, and the umpires picked out a free kick in there for in the back. So it'll come back, and Roundtree will take the free kick for the Eagles. Angus Roundtree backing up. Lachlan Carey, former South Adelaide player, meanwhile coming off the ground. Roundtree holding what must be a cake of soap, judging by the skills of the players at the moment.
Roundtree, last year's best and fairest, so important to them in the contested situation. Panthers have cut that one off though at half-back. Poking it back in towards the 50 for Daniel. Slips it off towards Cross. Cross sending the Panthers again into attack. Monkey went for the fly. Eagles have got numbers at the back of the pack. Panthers will be happy to develop another stoppage deep in their attacking zone. Another ball up. On 13 and a half minutes. Scores level, 2 points apiece. Both desperate to atone for disappointing efforts last week. Brooksby got the tap down. Little fires back the handball towards Murphy. Murphy dances through traffic, unloads. Oh, it's missed everything out in the full. Just needed to steady up a little bit more with that kick, I reckon, Andrew.
Yeah, he probably had a bit more time than he thought there, and he did try to straighten his body, which was good. What I'm enjoying about Caleb Daniel is just playing on instinct. And sometimes we can feel players with too much structures and things. He's just playing footy at the moment, and I'm enjoying watching him.
Across town at the Albert Oval, traditional rivals, Nord leading Port Adelaide by 4 points. Nord jumped out of the blocks early. They're the first 30 seconds. They already had their first major on the board. Ken McGregor's boys playing pretty good football at the moment, though. They were dominant last week against South Adelaide. Another pack situation. He says we're going to call this a few times today.
Chris, it was interesting that Andrew was talking about Caleb Daniel and how instinctual he is. That's exactly what Ron Fuller said to me before the game, that he's just playing because he just loves football. He's a genuine footballer. He just tries his hardest. He's always at training, and he's just very, very keen. So that's why I wanted to give him a go.
Little just picks up the ball, quickly slips it to Nathan Daniel, back to Little. Little shows it. Gee, they're hard to find room out there because, as we've said, the skills aren't clean. There was a slight push there, and Crab will take the free kick. Umpire didn't allow it to go on. It'll come back. So, Brad Crab, usually seen down back. Playing up forward this afternoon, across half forward. Already seen some strong leads from him, and he's waiting for a strong lead to come his way at the moment. Takes his time, finally goes to the pocket to Wonky. Who else? Thompson comes late, knocks it over the boundary line. Not the best place, I would have thought, to lead either, Andrew.
Yeah, it is. It's interesting in today's football. It is a place they lead, because all they want to do is, if they do turn the footy over, it doesn't open up the other side of the ground for the opposition. So it's more a defensive action with a bonus if he takes a mark.
Well, they got their stoppage and they'll get another one. It's fumbled over the line. 25 around from the South Adelaide goal face. 2 points apiece. That's not a misprint at the top of the screen. And yes, 16 minutes have just ticked over. Crowd hardly involved as yet.
Time to start getting them involved. That man down there in the beanie has got the right idea in a day like this. I'm not sure, Neil, where the ABC issue beanies were. I did look for them. Not sure if we have those in the wardrobe department.
Not anymore. They were handed out 5, maybe 10 years ago.
Time to go back to the future. Trying to work his way through traffic now is Schwartz. Cut off there by Powell. Gets a handball of sorts, but it now comes out into the direction again of Crab, who's been busy early. Sumner trying to keep it to advantage. Brings it back in. South Adelaide going deep into the attack. Cross tries to work his way through traffic. Is this going to be the first goal? Yes, it is for the reigning Comagary medalist. Joel Cross, you can't afford to give him any space, particularly not 15 metres out from goal, Andrew.
Yeah, interesting that Michael Gordon hadn't elected to tag anyone. Here's the contest here. It's where Byron Sumner's got to cut your losses and just run that out of bounds and just say we'll have another throw in. Just brought the ball forward there with Wadke, and Joel Cross, clever player, goes front and centre. Just takes his time, doesn't panic, comes back inside and kicks the goal.
Almost got the impression then Wadke didn't even try and mark it. He just wanted to bring it to the front.
Yeah, I think he was a little bit blindsided by the Eagles player in front of him, but good flat hands, good team play just to bring the ball forward.
Joel Cross, obviously visit to his hairdresser during the week. Umpire back in the middle, throws it up. Brooksby first touch on the ball, follows up pretty well, and then a sneaky little kick out the back to Little, who fell over as he kicked it. Now here's Jarrett, forced to use his right side. That's a rarity. Now Carey, ball rebounds towards Cross and then Fields, and he just clears the area towards Crabb, making good yards to the ball. Couldn't get the ball though. Hand pass came out towards Sumner, and then finally they've got possession. Lewis. Oh, Lewis didn't look before he gave. Now he's got it again. Oh, and he's caused an error as well. And South Adelaide, that pressure is just being felt by the Eagles.
Yeah, it's a simple game sometimes, you know, you've just a little bit of pressure. Let's just get the ball forward, long, hard and high under pressure. Just do a contest and you start again.
Lewis trying to get a clear disposal away. Eagles just hacking it away. Leading in the race for the pill there is Nathan Daniel for South. Kane spun around on the tackle, just got it away in time. Seem to be Panthers everywhere at the moment. Redagolo receiving that from another first gamer in Haynes. Murphy, Little looking to go back towards Murphy. Now they're starting to open the game up a little bit better, South Adelaide. Brooksby outer side wing, just waiting for something to present. Being called to play on now by the umpire. He's caught in a journey of indecision, Brooksby. Plays it further down the line. Goldsworthy trying to slip in. Hindus on hands and knees, opposed to Thulis. Boundary throw in. Sturt were very good last week at shutting down the Eagles' run. When they turned into a contested situation, the Eagles struggled to find a plan B on the day. So Ron Fuller's obviously studied the tape carefully there. Brooksby. Chris Kane just gets the clearance away up towards centre half forward. Panthers have got plenty of numbers back here. Player dealt with behind the play illegally. Advantage. Fields towards true centre half forward. Caleb Daniel been very busy on debut so far. And he's been given the free. Eagles fans not happy about that. Free kick count at the moment is 8-1 in favour of South Adelaide. Let's have a look at that one.
He's obviously fairly fearless here, certainly high. He's fearless because he's obviously wearing a head cap to protect himself.
I'd suggest he might be in more trouble than was first thought. He is very wobbly, the young man, and that may be the end, or well may be the end of his debut.
May not remember it.
Yeah. Well, he's obviously wearing the headgear for a reason.
Yeah, real shame he's already had the 6 disposals.
He's been lively up forward, hasn't he? But he's, as I said, playing on instinct. But Billy Lewison on replay, it's the second tackler that comes in.
So Archie takes the kick, unloads direct into the Panther forward line. Aaron Day, he was the man who collected Daniel back in that incident. Guess that'll come up on match review. Nothing really in it, I would have thought. Hindus. Eagles just trying to work it now through numbers. Coughing it up though. South Adelaide in the van. Cross just gets it back, but it's cut off there by Mitchell. 2-on-1 contest down here. Numbers are with South Adelaide. Schwartz didn't quite get final purchase on that. Umpire circling, ball up.
Schwartz was the man who had just come onto the ground to replace the young kid, Caleb Daniel. You see him give the thumbs up there. I'm not sure that he'll remember that he did that later though. Struggling a bit. They'll go off and no doubt do a concussion test. Benny Knights might have an eye on the test, but I'm sure he'll have an eye on the results.
He's just gone up the race as we speak, Neil, so just going up to have a bit of a breather, maybe have that test and we'll see if he comes back out shortly.
Ball squirts out of the pack towards Jared now. Jared decides, right, we're better off going in a match where the scoreline looked for a long time like a soccer scoreline. He went off the ground. Everything's fallen the way of South Adelaide, though. They're able to clear their area. Here's another first gamer, Haynes, third-generation South Adelaide player. Takes his time, takes too much time, then dribbles it towards Crabb. Maybe that was his plan. He gets a second possession. Down to half forward. That wasn't great either. Picked off by Gafrida and then Sumner. And then Sumner wide looking for Mitchell. He's roaming far and wide is Kane Mitchell at this stage. He's a long way from goal and he's searching for somebody who's going to lead at him. Finally it comes, but Fields gets there ahead of Salter, knocks it away. Redagolo gave it back to Gotch. He was good, made his way through traffic. Fields now Brooksby, and then Fields gets on the end of it again. He's a left footer. This side of the ground he comes. Umpire said no free kick involved in that. And the umpire will now pick out a free kick to the Eagles. Michael Wunke wasn't impressed. Poole will take the free kick.
It's only their second free of the day. Now it's going to be 25. Dealt with behind play there was Chris Kane. That's undisciplined stuff there from the Panthers. Look there. Ball slung into the ground.
Just 2 metres that way.
So Paul will be kicking from about 40 metres out. Just to level the scores on the edge of half-time. It's only going to be a short quarter. Kicks on its way. Swinging back, not far enough though. Minor score for the Eagles. Trailing by 5 points, that was only their second free kick of the day also.
Yeah, Michael Watke, just an indiscretion off the footy. Needs to be better than that.
He's come straight to the bench too, Andrew, so he knew. He called himself off and came for a sit-down. He's straight on the phone now. Ron Fuller, no doubt, explaining the logistics of what he did wrong.
Going to be a short quarter, you'd think. Redagolo, right forward, or right back pocket, I should say, for South Adelaide. Made his debut whilst still at school. Third, as I said, in the best and fairest last year, so he's grown with the club. Michael Wunke.
I think it would have been a short conversation with Ron Fuller and very one-sided.
Yeah, and it wasn't by Michael Wunke one-sided either, I would have thought. So Brooksby and Borholm play a little bit of aerial ping-pong, and then finally the ball comes back. And working hard was Roundtree, shuffled it forward. Now he looks for Ainger. Great pick-up by another former South Adelaide player. Then Poole, then inboard he went. And off the left foot, Lewis steadies and kicks a goal. A long time coming for the Eagles, but they hit the front by a point.
Yeah, I was about to comment about the kick-to-handball ratio of the Eagles. It was certainly almost 1-to-1, and they've overused the foot in this first quarter. But when it's a stretching handball, not an in-tight one, you can see there, it gave Lewis some time and some space to use. And he's a good finisher.
34 kick,
really good news down here, boys, is that Caleb Daniels come back out of the rooms. He's looking pretty good. He's just having a drink, and the boys are patting him on the back, and he looks as though he'll be ready to go back on shortly.
Good to see there.
Looks fresh-faced when he doesn't have that big helmet on.
He is 16 too, don't forget.
I was wondering out in the warm-up. Thought he looked a lot younger than that. That's a sign you're getting old up in commentary. I suppose at least the one benefit of being that age, you won't have to worry about driving home. Borholm. Panthers just trying to work it away. He's been spun around on the tackle. Umpire said no prior opportunity. All up. Eagles leading by the barest of margins. Tap down, Brooksby. Gotch. Didn't quite get the clear disposal away. Trying to work his way through there is Cross. Holding the ball. So Powell will get the handball. Off towards the running Lewis, who's searching down there for Staple. Staple thinking about the pass. Had a couple of options moving for him, but you would hope in this situation bigger forward would line up himself. So 26 minutes gone. This to try and get the margin out to 7 points for the Eagles. South Adelaide have had so much of the play in the opening 20 minutes. Staple comes out at the point of 50. It's going to land about a metre short. And it's been set up down there perfectly for the big man in Brooksby. Brooksby pokes it further down into the pocket.
Right there.
McKay. He's waiting for something to present. He elects to go back into the defensive goal square where it's Retigolo.
Retigolo, this side of the ground. Brooksby was thinking longer kick and maybe he'd run further, so he has to come to the ball. Selects out Little, who goes immediately wide to Hartigan. Hartigan takes his time. Down the line he goes high. Pretty much a version of a let's get out of here kick. South Adelaide still, though, with control of the ball. Little takes his time. A little bit of time and space. Does well to cross. Cross looks, spins away from one. Gets a little bit of space himself and goes down towards half forward. Oh, that was high. Well, it looked high. The umpire will now penalise young Brown for going in low. No, he won't. Yes, he might have ducked, but man, it certainly looked high, Andrew.
Oh, he's got his head over the footy. You've got to protect him. I reckon that should have been a free kick.
Brooksby whips it out wide and Haynes goes to ground over the ball. He's rewarded with a ball up.
It's good to see these boys who are back in today, Brown and Haynes and Caleb Daniel, getting their hands on the footy today, that's for sure.
So quarter time at Noarlunga, a tough dour struggle in the opening quarter. It's the Eagles by just a point. 1-3-9 plays South Adelaide 1-2-8. Well, I'm sure Ron Fuller will walk into the South Adelaide huddle and be very satisfied with the competition that his side has provided at quarter time to only trail by a point. Things obviously were tough and tight. The same couldn't be said last Sunday when South Adelaide journeyed to Alberton. Now remember, they haven't won a game here this season, but they have been all right on the road, but certainly not against Port Adelaide.
Yeah, they looked a bit devoid of confidence this day. They really didn't have the energy rating or the energy level required to compete strongly at SANFL level. And the Magpies, as I said, they're emerging. You know, they started the season slowly, and we did a game here on the ABC where they played Glenelg and got over the line by less than a goal, and they were able to, that really gave them some confidence, and they've been very, very competitive since then. And they're starting to formulate, starting to gel together. And so the concern you see here is how easy some of these goals are being kicked for the Magpies.
So Josh Thurgood running in there. Just some statistics from the game. Port Adelaide's possession, 374 to 305. And the marks, 125 to 74.
Yeah, the marks is damning because what it means is you've given up a lot of uncontested or contested marks, and that's just about work rate, that's about effort, that's about accountability. When you do turn the ball over, you've got to fight hard to get the ball back, and unfortunately they're not fighting hard enough on this day.
You can see, again, a couple of easy goals there. Graham Johncock involved and Josh Thurgood involved in a couple of those goals where it's just over the top and very easy. 49 inside 50s to 42 for Port Adelaide across the match. They led by 16 points at quarter time, 38 at half time, and then stretched it in the third quarter to 63 points, and that was the final margin.
Yeah, and as I said, they are starting to chime together four-quarter performances. Now, that's about coaching. That's about keeping the ball going and bringing it grandstand side and even running it out of bounds and then cut your losses to start again. But to come back inside, it's about educational and trying to get him to play the percentages.
It's John McDonald too, who was dropped for what was apparently disciplinary reasons this week. So there's the final result. Certainly Port Adelaide would have been happy with it. By the way, I should mention Graham Johncock with 6 goals, but Zane Kirkwood with 38 possessions leading the way for Port Adelaide in a 63-point victory. The other Sunday match last weekend, the Eagles taking on Sturt at the Woodville Oval. You would think going into this match, as we said, the Eagles are a side that had beaten West Adelaide and Norwood this season, and yet going in against the bottom team, they were given a wake-up call straight from the first quarter, a 27-point lead to the Double Blues at quarter time.
Yeah, we did a game earlier in the year, where the first round of the year, where Sturt led comfortably at half time and weren't able to sustain the pressure and the intensity for 4 quarters. This day they jumped out of the blocks again and were able to maintain that. And for the Eagles, they just didn't come to play. You know, their best, I still believe their best is, you know, as good as probably nearly anybody in the competition. Just got to get it together and gel together, and on this day, as I said, they didn't come to play. And today's game a little bit replicates where they both are as teams. They're a little bit devoid of confidence, both teams, and you know, we really haven't seen any flow in this game as yet.
It's Nick Salter, who's been an important inclusion, coming back, trying to find some form to build to an AFL position, hopefully with Port Adelaide. But in this game, the Double Blues led by 43 points at half-time. We saw Matt Doldig involved before. This is action from the third quarter. Matt Goldsworthy with the goal. Again, it wasn't the best of Sturt after half-time. When they led by 43 points, they won the third quarter just by 3 points. So 46 points at three-quarter time. Here's Doldig. Now, he finished with 11 possessions and 5 goals won. And if anything, he is a little bit underrated, isn't he?
He is, just for his footy smarts. You look at him and you think he's not a great athlete. He hasn't got any exceptional pace or exceptional overhead marking, but he's just a smart player. He knows when to lead, where the space is. He protects the drop of the ball, and he finds ways to create goals for himself and his team.
Tom Harms kicking that one to basically seal the game for the Double Blues, 16-7 to 10-7 for the Double Blues. So an impressive victory, a 36-point victory, and one that they would have been very, very happy with. So that's the form, too, of both clubs coming into this match. And as you said, Andrew, lacking maybe a little bit of confidence as we go down to Nida. On the boundary at night, he'd been listening to the Eagles. It wasn't impressive from either side, though, was it?
No, it wasn't, Crossy. It's not going to be impressive today. It's going to be a bit of a slog. What the Eagles were happy about was the fact they were getting their hands on the football. They were making the South Adelaide on balls accountable. A little bit critical in the fact that they're dropping back behind the football a bit much. They're still wanting to keep their conventional structures, keeping their wings and half forwards where they're meant to be, keeping their ruck rovers and rovers around the footy, in front of the footy, and just letting their centremen wrap it up at stoppages. So just wanting to keep their players in conventional stoppages and setups rather than drifting behind the ball, giving extra numbers and just blocking it up. They still back themselves in to win the contest, carry the ball forward and have that poise when they're delivering up forward.
Thanks, Snyder. Michael Godden just mentioned at the start of the program that Godden's record against Fuller is 6 wins and 3 losses. So he's in front there, and he's in front on the scoreboard by just a point. And over at Alberton, it's Norwood just by 4 points against Port Adelaide. And then tomorrow, the 2 games. A reminder, Sturt taking on Glenelg, and Sturt, the Jumbo Prince, will be there tomorrow. Rick Davies inducted into the Australian Football Hall of Fame. And then North Adelaide taking on Central District tomorrow as well. So look forward to those 2 games tomorrow, which will have a significant bearing, you'd think, especially for Sturt and Glenelg for their prospects this season. And you see there, former Sturt coach in Luke Norman there as an assistant with Michael Godden. And now a former Eagle again will go across to Ronnie Fuller, who's the coach of South Adelaide.
Thanks, Crossy. Well, Ronnie, it's not going to be pretty today, but a pretty good slog in that first quarter.
Well, it was. It's probably, as you say, we don't need to be overusing the ball. I thought there were a couple of occasions just backward of centre that we overused it, and they came at us, and especially in the last 5 minutes. But in the main, I was pretty happy with it. It was pretty good.
And pretty good spark from your young kids too, the 3 boys coming in.
Yeah, they've all done well. They've all added something for sure.
And getting their hands on the footy, keeping poise with disposals, is that what the key is for the rest of the game?
Well, it is, but sometimes when it's a bit dewy, you need yards as well. So everyone playing in front, getting the ball forward and just making the most of our chances.
Thanks, Ron.
So if you've just joined us, yes, there was a bit of rain earlier. It is slippery out there, despite it looking not too bad from this angle, that's for sure. Let's go to the second quarter. It's an Eagles lead by just a point, and here is the second quarter with Chris Kendall.
Just back to basics, that's all Ron Fuller wants, and Mick Godden no doubt would love the same. No finessing on a day like this. Brooksby, Hindjoss gets the tap down. Brooksby fires the handball out. A bit too hot for his teammates, gets it off towards Powell, who cuts it off Heath. Cruising off of halfback, searching for his Powell-listed teammate in Mitchell. Needs the ball to set up for him, uses that pace. Pokes it further down into the forward pocket. That's been cut off down there by Hardigan. Goes further down the lines, looking for Murphy, who gets the fly over the top, punches it away from Heath. Boundary throw in.
Boys, it must be a little bit difficult for Kay Mitchell coming back into this lineup. Just his 3rd game for the Eagles. Obviously, current Sandover medalist in WA. He dropped from Port, in and out of the power team, and he looked a bit despondent at quarter time. So, he's got to keep working hard to get his spot back in that AFL.
Mitchell is averaged only the 17 disposals in his 2 SANFL games to date.
It's a good challenge for you, though, isn't it, really? You can really, well, not so much sulk, but you can come back here and say, I don't deserve to be here, or I should be playing AFL. or you just test his character and say, look, I want to be here, I'm going to make it happen for myself.
Not so many wet and boggy grounds to be playing on over in West either. It's very sandy, big expanses, so pretty different down here at Noarlunga.
Just get the free, bring it out towards Murphy. Bolts away, cross. It's a real mongrel punt into the forward lines. Trying to get the handball away was Crabb. Working through traffic is Raymond. He looked like he was taken high there. He's been called for the throw. They've missed one free, not the second one. Cross pokes it into Wunke. So it was a congested situation down there. It appears that the umpire did miss the one free in there, but Wunke will be the beneficiary of the second.
Let's have a look at that. Look, I'm liking Bradley Crabb at centre-half forward, just making a contest there and just really being really competitive. And there's just a beautifully weighted pass forward for Wunke.
Michael Wunke. 2 kicks today. Yet to register a major. Kicks on its way. It's drifting across, but still through for a major. And South Adelaide open out a 5-point lead.
They do just perseverance, and the forward line pressure for the Panthers end was really good. They actually worked hard to keep the ball in the forward line. And there's a quick play, and that's just smart play. The ball stopped, but you still keep playing. And there's just that space in front of Wunke there that Thompson's unable to effect a spoil, and it just squeezes home.
It's a good response too from Wunke, who had that indiscretion in the first quarter. He's gone back up forward, good strong hands, a great goal, and Ron Fuller will be maybe putting him back in the good books.
27 goals for the season for Wunke. And Gotch out of the middle. Powell hanging on and finally got him. Well, Luke Powell just crossed the 200 game mark a couple of weeks ago. Out wide with a kick. Ball comes to the front today. Skirting, but unable really to straighten up, and then finally forced into the error. Out of bounds on the full. So it'll be Hartigan to take the free kick. Or Fields, no, Hartigan eventually. Straight down the line, looking for Murphy perhaps backing in, was his former teammate in Carey, and the ball to the ground. And then Carey eventually gets it as it dribbles out the back, but his kick was smothered. We'll get a stoppage, and I'd suggest that hurt little, the smother.
Ball about to come back into play. Certainly a very congested stoppage field match so far. Bornholm got the tap straight down to the advantage of Little. Cross. Panthers working it off half-back. Bring him board towards Pfeiffer. Pfeiffer works his way cleverly through traffic. Shows a turn of foot. Goes up long towards centre-half forward. Good defensive pressure in there from the youngster in Somerton. Trying to work through now is Roundtree. He's wrapped up in a stoppage. Kafree decided into a bit of trouble there. Ball up. It'll come into the bench. Tap down, Roundtree. Well tackled by his opposing 15 in Gotch. Smuggles it out now towards Murphy. Murphy needs to finish this. Minor score. Again, he seemed to have a little bit more time and space than what he thought, Andrew.
He did, but it was great work inside. I think it was by Gotch who actually got the ball out, and it was just his determination that worked his way into working to get the footy.
Powell, and did he punch it? No, he didn't. Caleb Daniel, great desperation and rewarded with a free kick. Well, he got knocked about in the opening quarter. Now it's play-on advantage, and Wunke will be cursing that kick. But Caleb Daniel, so impressive in his first game, came back from a heavy knock. And now it's broken for Lewis, then Thompson. And Thompson looking to spot up Carey. Just outside defensive 50 for the Eagles. Boy, they had an opportunity to then South Adelaide. Now out towards centre wing, Hartigan with a big punch towards the boundary line. South Adelaide work the ball forward again. Finally to Haynes, inboard Redagolo. Redagolo to half forward, to centre half forward, and the lead up by Josh Thulis, who turns around. Wunke says, yes, me, high, thank you, got position, should take it, doesn't. Gefrida able to knock it away. Goldsworthy, haven't called him off this afternoon. Archie leads Kane to the ball, and Kane gets him. What does the umpire think of that? And the umpire says, I'll ball it up. And, there's a reaction from Archie, not happy with Chris Kane. So we have a look. This is the reason he's not happy. It was an excellent tackle. And the ball squeezes out of bounds at right half forward for South Adelaide.
Caleb Daniel back there. This is just fantastic stuff from a first gamer. Gets the spoil in on Powell, affects the tackle, and then in the next passage of play manages to bring down Gafrida. Really wonderful stuff. Back to the live action. The ball up. Get the leading possession getters in a moment from Corey Ogilvie. Chris Kane getting off the bottom of the pack. Tap down. Getting the stoppage away there was Nathan Daniel. Trying to worry his opponent out of it now is Wonky. Working through his Snook. Snook tries to get his way through the second lot of traffic. The Cavalry arrives, ball up. Some of those leading possession getters, Corey.
Yes, Chris. Little had a huge first quarter for the Panthers with 13. The big fella Brooksby with 9, and Fields and Redagolo with 7. And for the Eagles, they only had 64 for the quarter. Paul led the way with 6.
Speaking of huge first quarters, Nick Little is about to back up with a free kick for too high right in front of goal. You would think I was going to say he couldn't miss from there, but I'm wary of the commentator's curse.
First for the footy at the moment, aren't they, the Panthers? And the Eagles' tackling has not been good early in this quarter.
So Nick Little to get the margin out to 12 points, which in the context of the game is a big one. Kick's on its way. Commentator's curse couldn't beat that kick. Panthers are out to a 2-straight kick lead, and as you mentioned, Andrew, the Eagles really are second to the ball. It's carryover from last week.
Yeah, just feel at the moment that they've been dictated. There's lucky not a free kick to Brooksby. And there's just inside, just didn't get in low enough there to Angus Roundtree. And Little gets a kick, and he made no mistake from directly in front. Just at the moment, as I said, the Panthers have the ascendancy, and the Eagles, that's just their sloppy tackling, just some missed tackles.
So Caleb Daniel coming off the ground. And the guy who'd know about taking hard hits to the head would be Brett Backwell too, the assistant coach there talking to him. As the ball comes out of the middle again for South Adelaide, long and deep into their forward line. Opportunity for Gafrida, and Snook gets on him straight away, so the ball is held in. They've done pretty well. Somerton taken to ground, and umpire says, play on. Gotchard was working hard. Now he's back in after the ball and will get a ball up. Only 30 metres out from the goal face. Brooksby and Crab, two very impressive bodies that have been going hard for South Adelaide thus far.
Yeah, just you can see there again, but what I'm liking about Brooksby, Ken Brooksy's his second efforts. He's not happy just to, he's not a tap ruckman. He's actually hunting the footy after it, actually, in the area. So, but he really is dominating and really giving his on ballers first look.
And again, he's given them first look. Little over the ball, trying to crash the pack. Well, sort of. He was no chance to get through there, was he? Interesting about Brooksby, of course, he's the son of Phil Brooksby, who played with South Adelaide as well. We've got Joe Haynes out there, we've already mentioned, third generation of South Adelaide players. And that ball knocked deliberately towards the boundary line, and the umpire's ping day. So, as a result, the free kick will go to Brown. Let's have another look. Pretty sure that was his intention.
Yeah, he probably didn't disguise it enough. We'll get it further down the line.
Now that ball was touched off the boot. So as it goes forward, Brooksby comes hard to the pack and knocks it forward. Mitchell goes in over it, overruns it, leaves it for Heath. Heath comes this side to Goldsworthy. Goldsworthy, well, he can't play on immediately. Nothing available down the line. Eventually, the mark is well policed by Brown, and he's called to play on, and down the line he goes. Angel buffeted out of it, and eventually the ball over the line near the interchange gates, and South Adelaide are doing the business at the moment. They lead by 12 points.
Matthew Goldsworthy playing deep in defence at the moment. You think that the Eagles really need him on the ball or up forward if they're going to get some ascendancy in this. They really seem up and about at the moment. Panthers, Little, sending them again into attack. Mark almost taken at the back there by Somerton. Couldn't quite get the final grab on it. Gotcha's in there. The ball up. South Adelaide, they're very desperate at the moment. You want to just try and get one win at home before the season's out, you'd think. Don't have to call that stat. Go ridden over the boundary line. Throw in. Over at the Albert Oval. Nord leading Port by 5 points. So entertaining match over there certainly is here also, particularly for a Panthers fan. He spins back in. Powell at the bottom of the pack. Get $1 for every time you'd said that as a caller over the years. You'd be a rich man. Panthers are creating plenty of loose men on the defensive side also if the Eagles do get the free kick away. Fields. Another stoppage, another ball up. This plays into the Panthers' hands at the moment. They've got 2 loose men completely free, one in the centre square and one just further up on the grandstand wing. Mitchell, Archie, Gafrida. Trying to find some space to get the clear possession away, but there's no space at the moment. Panthers are really shutting down their running game at the moment. Another ball up. Deep in the Panthers' attack, leading by 12 points. Trying to find some space to at least get a throw up. Hindus leaps high over Bass. Suffering it towards the boundary line is Goldsworthy. Another throw in. It's just hard at the moment, Andrew, to see where the spark is going to come for the Eagles.
Yeah, it is. They really need some of their leaders to really stand up and take the game on a little bit, just to get this momentum back. So just a nice period here where you just shut down the South momentum and then start to work back the other way.
Ball smuggles out in the direction of Archie. That did look a throw. I tend to agree with some of those in the crowd. Fisting that through for a minor score there was Thompson. Margin out to 13 points.
Come this side of the ground, South unable to defend. Day now through the middle, he had options, ignored them, decided to go longer. Now towards centre wing. Staple has the ball knocked away. Roundtree at the front. Daniel pressuring him and takes it to the line. Through the interchange gates goes the ball. So Brooksby goes to Borholm. Brooksby the hand across again. Had the better of that, then followed up. Ball goes out the back to Daniel. Across the ground he goes. Well done by Jared. Now he'll send the Eagles forward. I think Ronnie Fuller would be happy with that kick across the ground. Now it comes out to Roundtree. Fumble after he got it from Staple. Now he's in trouble, being held by Archie. Umpire has a look, decides on the ball up. So halfway through the second term, low scoring encounter. 3-4 plays 1-3. The home team, South Adelaide. Can't say it often this season that they're in front at home.
Indeed they are. Pfeiffer poking further down the lines where he spots up young Caleb Daniel. Now he's got a long lead down here from Brad Crabb, who's in a 2-on-1. Oh, clunks that well, like, gee whiz, that was great work. Hands it off. Not the greatest of disposals into the 50. That was set up for Gafrida's advantage, if anything. Raymond, Heath, Poole. They should be able to work this one out now, the Eagles, if they take a bit of care. Goldsworthy. Goldsworthy grandstand side. He's got Poole moving into space, but he wants to go further down the lines, and rightly so. Long looking for Ainger, who just worried Hartigan out of it, illegally. Free kicks. Now 14-4 South Adelaide's way. Happened to the play in front. Mark down there from Thoughts. Thoughtless. Bring it back into board. Gotch. Puts the skates on. He's looking down here for one key. Works his way to the front and takes it. So many times today, Andrew, they've worked their way to the front of the marking contest and they're taking the one grabbers in these conditions.
Yeah, it was good play there. The kick wasn't perfect from Gotch, but what he did was prop in front of Thompson, protect it, and then get his big jukes up. So you can see a look at here. He just propped us previously there, just held his position, just put some body back on Thompson and was able to get his hands up.
So Michael Wunke. This to get them larging out to 19 points, not to be. Minor score, 14-point margin for the Panthers.
Chris, South will be pretty keen to get big Bradley Crabb back out there. He took that great grab a minute ago, but came straight off with a really sore back. So he's getting some work down here by the trainer, a bit of heat through the back, and hopefully for Ron Fuller, get him out there sooner rather than later.
High hit on Archie, or at least I thought it was. The umpire said no. You get a ball up. There's the work going on Crabb. So Archie had the back now. Oh, he slipped the hand pass nicely. Nathan Daniel inside half forward. Little recovered pretty well. Runs on Day. You'd think he'd have too much pace and agility. Umpire doesn't call that holding the man. Back it comes. Cross. Centres it up. Redigolo perhaps a chance. So's Brooksby. Brooksby got it. Off to Redigolo. Slammed down into the turf, ball up.
They really have dominated this quarter. It's now 17-8 inside 50s, and there's Angus Roundtree. That spells further trouble for the Eagles. He's one of their in and under grunt players.
Cross, couldn't handle the ball. Worried out of it by Lewis. Then Poole clears the area, perhaps only momentarily. Nathan Daniel got rid of Kane, but then couldn't take the mark. Kane came back, gave it to Carey. Carey to Ainger. Nothing much in front of him, just one contest, and that's the one involving Staple. He goes towards Jared. He found Sumner, good vision. Sumner gets control of the ball, 60 out, and just drops it in for the lead-up of Staple. And Staple looks over the top. Running hard towards the goals was Campbell Heath, and he takes the mark barely 10 metres out. So he's come all the way from half back to take that mark. Meanwhile, not doing much running. Angus Roundtree having his ankle, I think it is, looked at. Benny, you're down there. You could probably tell us better.
Certainly, Neil. He's come off and pointed at the top of his right calf, but they're just testing his knee, make sure there's no structural damage in that at the moment. So I'm guessing probably a calf or a fibula they're actually worried about at the moment.
So Heath, meanwhile, kicks the first goal. In fact, the first score of the quarter for the Eagles. It's taken 17 and a half minutes.
And it wasn't actually pretty footy. They just got the ball forward. It was interesting. Ainger took the mark at centre half forward, and it was one-on-one at Staple down there, and he elected not to kick it to him. That was the time to really get it forward. Staple, just good footy smarts there. He's worked hard forward. Staple just finds that hole that he can kick it into.
That was the Eagles, just their second inside 50 for the quarter. South have had 10.
Campbell Heath, the 24 disposals against North in his only other SANFL game in round 7. Brooksby slips through fingers. Lewis. Kane. Tried to get his way through traffic, ran straight into a tackle here of Schwarz. Mitchell. Schwarz again in a tackle. Ball up. On Kane Mitchell's stats in a minute. Thanks, Corey. He doesn't seem to have been that dominant. We mentioned he's only had 17 disposal average in his 2 SANFL games.
Chris, both Redigolo and Schwarz have been running off him as well, so they've been doing a really tight tag on him and really frustrating him.
Been pretty effective. He's only had the 5 touches so far. Sumner comes out towards Goldsworthy. Goldsworthy fires a handball back to Kane. Kane unloads, looking down there for Ainger. Mitchell at the back of the pack, right on cue. Wheels around. He's caught in a journey of indecision as to whether to go for the shot or to fire it up in towards the direction of Goldsworthy, who tries to soccer it off the turf. Touch, minor score. Eagles trailing now by 7 points.
Bounces over the top. Matty Goldsworthy, generally a very clever player. Just didn't assess that situation well. But Kane Mitchell's more of a running player. He needs to get out in the open and get outside, use his skills outside, and he's just being drawn into the contest currently.
South Adelaide working it hard towards the wing. Redigolo was high on Carey. Umpire didn't think so. And now it's back just 60, maybe 65 metres out from the goal face for the Eagles.
Andrew, you talked about Mitchell running forward and really bursting forward. He's done that from the centre through to that forward pocket the last 2 or 3 times, but with the slippery conditions, the Eagles just haven't been able to get the ball over the top to him.
Schwartz to ground. Umpire says, no, I'll have it. So, Michael Godden with plenty to think about at the moment. Oh, the headphones, familiar face for Glenelg supporters, Daniel Kirk. So, South break from the back, wasn't a great kick to switch the play, and as a result picked off by Sumner. So Sumner stands at left half forward, waits for the lead. Ainger with his hand up, Hartigan lost him. He's got some support though from Brooksby down there. As a result, they're able to bring it to the front of the, or to the side of the pack, if you like, to Daniel. Redigolo with some time. His kick wasn't good. In fact, it was awful. He missed Haynes by a long way, and Staple nipped in and took the mark, and he'll have a look at the goals from perhaps only 25, 30 metres out.
And doing all their good work early in the quarter, aren't they? They really did dominate. You can see there just off screen, just down the bottom, he had Giddings, who was wide, he could have used. He linked it to go back into the corridor. And now we see Lee Staple, just with an opportunity just to bring this margin back to, South have had all the play, 7 inside 50s to 11. They certainly deserve a stronger lead than what they've got currently.
Ticked on 21 minutes into this second term. Just joined us. It was a very low-scoring opening quarter, 1-3 for the Eagles to 1-2 for South Adelaide. The Eagles have now got their second of the second term. It's back to a 1-point game.
Yeah, it is, and as I said, South really dominated, and probably mimics a little bit the first quarter where South had long periods of play where they were the better team and just haven't been able to hurt the Eagles on the scoreboard. And just little minor mistakes there, a missed target, and Staple goes back and is generally a good kick for goal.
Andrew, good news for the Eagles. Angus Roundtree's gone straight back into the centre here. He's got that right knee, just below the right knee, taped with a bit of padding on the outside of that right knee. So I'd say it's either the top of his calf or maybe a fibula they're concerned about just under that right knee.
The Eagles have kicked 1-3 in the first 41 minutes and 2 goals, 1 in the last 4. Cross gets the clearance for South Adelaide. Good strong mark taken down there by Raymond though for the Eagles. Raymond, he's got plenty of numbers breaking for him. First of those is Mitchell. Mitchell finds that space that he's been looking for all day, burns off Archie. Goes long up towards the half-forward line, pull at the bottom of the pack situation now for the Eagles. He's wrapped up well in a tackle by Pfeiffer, ball up. Talking to one of the Eagles staff pre-game, Kane Mitchell's commented that the ground's nowhere near as wide and open as he saw in the Waffle last year. Takes a bit of time to adjust to that. Goldsworthy tries to bust his way through, sends out a handball looking for Borholm. Boundary line. Beats him, throw in. Impressive beard there from Josh Phillips. Beards are certainly coming back into fashion. Must start putting the razor away. Actually, second thoughts, remember my last effort, I won't. Ball spins back in. Nathan Daniel. Schwarz. Another pack situation, another ball up. Given any thoughts to a beard, Andrew?
No, actually. Had a go once, and didn't look good. Didn't go well down with the misses, so put it away.
Yes. Good long-term career move in that case on so many fronts. Mark Murphy received it from Cross. It's got to be holding the ball there. So Luke Jarrett is starting to work his way into the contest. Pokes it in towards the forward 50. He was looking down there for Ainger. Good strong mark taken at the back there by Hardigan.
Hardigan again, taking his time. Last time in this situation, he was eventually able to pick out a perfect kick. This time he's unable to find our target at all, so he just goes down the line, and the Eagles have numbers here. And they're able to take it away through Lewis, who sat at the front. Bixby unable to get there to knock it away. Lewis waits, a couple of leads from Ainger. Eventually he picks his lead out, ball over the back. Sumner picks it up, great tackle, but he's still able to get it off, and Poole butchers the opportunity just maybe 15 metres out. He could have straightened even, but he didn't. As a result, the minor score.
Yeah, my first thoughts were to straighten there, and that's about a little bit of voice around Poole as well. Let him know he's free so that he can straighten.
Panthers bringing him board quickly. Bass gets the handball back towards Caleb Daniel. Surely didn't have it. Pye agrees. So young Caleb Daniel. Let's have a look at the tackle there. Panthers still working around. Don't know about that being a sling though. There's been a bit of talk of that in the SANFL. I reckon that one's okay. Summerton. Roundtree. Ball up at half forward now for the Panthers. About 65 metres out from goal. Scores level. Getting the tap down was Borholm. Crossed over, of course, from West Adelaide in the off-season. Another ball up. A few players cross over the Eagles. 2 from West, Bleasing and Borholm. Carey and Ainger from South Adelaide. Selective recruiting. Ball spins back out into the direction of Day. Gotch wrapped him up. Another pack situation. Very congested football. Another ball up. Eagles have only had the 118 disposals so far, and right on cue, half-time at the Noarlunga Oval. It doesn't get any closer than this, Andrew. Scores level.
Yeah, it doesn't, and look, it's really been quite a scrappy game. Both teams seem a little bit devoid of confidence, and it really has been in 2 halves. We saw South in both quarters jump out of the blocks. The Eagles respond to that, and then just both teams probably overusing the footy a little bit more, and maybe get it on the boot, play the basics well, get the ball forward, put some pressure on. and then maybe score some goals that way, rather than trying to be too cute and too clean.
Half-time at Noarlunga Oval, South Adelaide and the Eagles locked away, 3-5-23 apiece. Grab yourself a cuppa and settle in for a big second half here on ABC One SANFL.
South Adelaide don't have a great record here this season. 5 losses to start the season for them at Noarlunga, but at halftime they're well in this match. Scores locked away 3-5 apiece. Let's go to the under-18 competition from last week. It was round 10, and here's what unfolded.
The round got underway on the Thursday before the long weekend. Nice fixture if you can get it. With a 3-goal win favouring the southern end, Tony Bamford's Panthers played with a couple behind the ball when the Magpies were heading into the wind. Clever tactic, which made for a close, if not frustrating game. For the Magpies, Jack Haasma from Sacred Heart College was best on ground. With college football on hold for the long weekend, college players became available again, if only for one weekend. And Jack enjoyed another run with Port, playing on ball as a ruck rover. One of 3 Jacks supporting Port was Jack Cooper. He's been consistent all year round. A local lad from the Port Districts Football Club, Jack worked well up forward and was rewarded for his efforts with a goal. The 3rd Jack was Jack Foster, an overager also from the Port Districts Football Club. This Jack worked on the wing and through the middle. He's the son of Richard Foster, 4-time Port Adelaide Premiership player and now coach of the Freeling Football Club. Big shoes to fill. From Whyalla, Kyron Hollingworth Hughes played across centre half back. This is a player who's had an unlucky run this season. He's had various injuries, including a cut hand and a strained hamstring, but he's kept up his skills with 22 clean possessions in this match. The Panthers were well served by an elite golfer. Mitchell Tate decided that he'd give football a go about 3 years ago, but he really is an exceptionally good golfer, playing for Glenelg. Mitch even excelled when his golf team played last year at Kooyonga in the South Australian Junior Amateur Championships. But for now, Mitchell's playing footy and playing it well. From Ranella, he played in the ruck last week, winning 24 hitouts. Jordan Kapler is the son of David Kapler and the nephew of Darren Kapler, both legends of the South Adelaide Football Club. He played across the back line in this match with 13 kicks to his famous name. And just to keep the dynasty theme going, Ed Boyd is the grandson of the great David Boyd with 7 premierships for Port Adelaide in the 50s. Ed was back with South just for the weekend, having been part of Prince Alfred College's football program all year. As so often is the case, the Panthers' third quarter let them down, and they eventually went down to the Magpies by just 7 points. North Adelaide coach Tim Weatherald was able to field one of his strongest teams for the season for round 10. With college kids back for the long weekend and the state under-16 trial pilfering players, Tim made 11 changes to the team that lost to West in round 9, and the changes paid off. Scores were pretty well level up to half-time, but then the Roosters kicked away in a magnificent third quarter. It's not that they had more of the ball, but they certainly did more with it than the Bays. And one player who made the most of his 29 disposals was Harry Wigg, back from Prince Alfred College for the weekend. Harry worked hard on the wing, running up forward for 4 inside 50s and 20 kicks. This was just his second game for the season with the North Adelaide under-18s, and his performance showed just why he's worth waiting for. Also back from college for the day was Jonathan Hayes from Blackfriars. Known as Jono to his teammates, the ex-Port Pirie player worked on ball all day with 22 perfect handballs and 9 clearances. With Luke Trenorton up with the reserves and Jack Turnbull over in Melbourne at a basketball carnival, the job of rucking all day went to Josh Ingram from the Golden Grove Football Club. With his uncle, Dexter Kennedy, who played for Western Port in the 70s and 80s for inspiration, Josh never tired. This was his best game for the season. Adam Blakely's Tigers were up against it in round 10. He had a few college kids back, but then he also had to contend with illness and injury, and his boys struggled to defend against the strong Roosters forward line. They still had a lot of the ball with 20 more disposals than North, but they wasted some critical possessions and didn't gel as a team. There were some good performances though. Damien Hill won the ruck contest more often than not. From the Bordertown Football Club, Damien also took some good marks up forward, and working hard through the midfield was Elliot Chalmers. Elliot returned from Sacred Heart College for this match and finished with a healthy 28 disposals. But the day belonged to North. Well, at least the third quarter did. That's where the match was won. North Adelaide by 25 points. The Eagles came into this match perched on top of the under-18 ladder. The Double Blues were just looking to get into the 5. The result came as a bit of an upset, with Sturt doubling the Eagles' score to win convincingly. In the end, it all came down to commitment. And there can be no one more committed than this young man, Christopher James Moriarty. From St Peter's College, Chris prefers to be called James. It saves confusion with his dad, who's also called Chris. So you got that? James played his first game for Sturt and would have been easier for him to skip it. With a huge Year 12 workload and just about to head off to England with the St Peter's cricket team, the 2012 Under-16 best in Ferris still chose to play for Sturt, and he was brilliant across half-back. He allowed Luke Andriskovic to play his preferred role up front, and it all worked out just fine. And also working out fine was Scotch College's James Rose. The 17-year-old kicked 4 goals against Port Adelaide back in round 2. In this match he went even better, kicking 7 against the Eagles. Missing out on state selection last week was 18-year-old Sebastian Week, also from Scotch College. Seb enjoyed his day with the Double Blues with 23 disposals and a goal in the first quarter. Shane Grimm's Eagles would have welcomed back a bunch of college players, but 3 of them joined Brenton Phillips stateside in Queensland. 1 was injured and 1 went on a school camp for the weekend. So while there were changes to his team, it would prove difficult to maintain top spot on the ladder. In his first game for the Eagles was Ethan Haylock, the son of Gary Haylock, who played for Woodville and the Eagles in the 80s and 90s. As an under-17 player, Ethan has plenty of potential with 11 disposals in his first game. Jack Hayes has earned his own respect in recent weeks. Brother of Brisbane's rookie-listed Nick Hayes, Jack from Sacred Heart College played across halfback and even tried his hand in the ruck for a while. Jack Gaffney had his best game for the Eagles. Often best for St Michael's College, Jack played on ball and on the wing for his 20 possessions. And yet another Jack, Jack Enright from the Henley Football Club, played across half-back where he excelled. Jack was dropped earlier in the year, but he's more than made up for any shortcomings he might have had back then. His work ethic now can't be faulted. But in the surprise of the round, the Eagles were soundly beaten across all areas of the ground. At Unley Oval, it was Sturt by 11 goals. The evening fixture last Saturday was down at the Richmond Oval. Norwood and Westies always makes for an exciting skirmish, but this was just a display of good, honest football. And but for some poor kicking in the final quarter, the Bloods might have and perhaps should have won, but they didn't kick straight and they didn't win. Best on ground for the Redlegs was Ryan Reevely. Ryan was part of the under-16 state squad last year and was brilliant on the wing for his team. He goes to Adelaide High School, but luckily for the Redlegs, he doesn't play much footy for them. His 26 disposals was a team high. Matt Wallace took some good marks up front. He's an overager stolen from the Tigers after he moved to Adelaide from the southeast. Playing reserves for a good deal of 2013, Matt came back to the under-18s and scored 2 good goals in round 10. Dylan Orcello finished up at Ross Trevor College last year and was noted for his excellent spoiling in this match. It might not get you high on the stat sheets, but it's an essential aspect of any game, especially one that you win. And also working hard on the 1%ers was Toby Lehman. His intercepting was a demonstration of his extraordinary ability to read the play. From Marriotteville High School, Toby got into double figures with his rebound 50s, nailing 10 for the match. For Jared Mears' Bloods, it was yet another small losing margin. He made 9 changes from round 9 with his selection affected by senior promotion, state football and, of all things, that basketball carnival in Melbourne that took Brett Turner off his hands. On the bright side, he did get Nathan Armat Watkins back from college. The captain, Jack Evans, is back from a quad injury. He most likely would have been in the state team if it weren't for his injury. He accounted for 13 clearances and snagged a couple of goals as he worked through the midfield. From Flagstaff Hill, Jack was easily West's best, with half a dozen excellent tackles to keep Norwood honest. Harry Vick is still in fantastic form. He's destined for senior football soon. And Harry Westhoff from the Goodwood Saints Football Club was also excellent. Cousin of Justin and Matthew Westhoff, Harry is a tall defender who used his height to good advantage, having a go in the ruck in the final term. From Emmanuel College, Lockie Dodds-Watkins was determined to get noticed. His strong tackling and bodywork were a feature of this game, especially in the first quarter. Originally from Alice Springs, this is Lockie's first year with Westies, and it may just turn out to be a springboard to greater heights. But he'll have to wait his turn because in round 10 it was Norwood winners by 14 points.
So quickly through those scores again, and with the college kids back for the weekend, things were pretty even except for the Sturt match. 11 goals the difference there, and that was an upset, Sturt beating the Eagles. But it was Port Adelaide by 7 points, North by 25 and Norwood by 14 points in the other matches. Central District having the bye, probably just as well. They're down the bottom of the ladder and really struggling, the Doggies. Up the top, though, it's North, the Eagles, Glenelg, Sturt and Port, the top 5 at the moment. Westies, Norwood and South still possibly with some hope of seeing some finals action. Well, that's the under-18s locally in the SANFL, but the state under-18s played against Queensland in the championships last Saturday, and the national championships last Saturday afternoon. Now, we could show you a minute and a half of action, but we think this encapsulates the entire game, really. Now, to start there, Zach Bates getting out that hand pass. They scramble the ball, South Australia, down to half forward, and then it's precision from here on. Luke Dunstan with the kick inside 50 to find Luke Reynolds, who springs around and finds Alex Spina, and that simply was that for the South Australians. They pretty much did it all afternoon. And down at Southport, or up at Southport I should say, I'm thinking like I'm in Brisbane, but up at Southport on the Gold Coast, it was South Australia by 100 points. And so that's the, in effect, warm-up games for the South Australians. Tomorrow they face the serious end of the carnival, and first up at the serious end of the carnival will be Vic Country, and we will have highlights of that next week on our SANFL program from 2 o'clock on Saturday afternoon. Okay, now we're going to move on and have a look at the VFL and the WAFL from last week. It was round 9 of the VFL and round 12 already of the WAFL. We'll go to the Vics first up.
Frankston had enjoyed their most successful start of the year since 2008, but was still chasing that elusive third win. Their latest challenge saw them host Werribee, who had endured an up-and-down start to the season, but were working their way up the ladder after successive wins. The home side had a point to prove early and came out hard.
Gallagher just off a step, that was good. In the path of Lowry, right near the boundary line. Will he have a shot? Oh, you bet he will!
With a 3-goal lead at the first change, Frankston wasn't done with yet. Nor was Michael Lowry, whose third goal gave the Dolphins a 26-point lead before Sam Lloyd joined the party.
Long flat ball to the goal square, almost the mark, not taken. Here's Lloyd!
Oh, yes!
Oh, get around him!
Werribee turned up the intensity midway through the second term and began to capitalise on some Frankston turnovers. And all of a sudden, the Tigers were inspired.
Oh! Big launch by Brown! The Tasmanian flies high, and that's what he can do.
They finished the half with 4 of the last 6 goals and had fought back to be trailing by just 13 points at the main change. Werribee took a stranglehold of the match in the third quarter, dominating play and converting on the scoreboard. Frankston was left dumbfounded as the Tigers piled on 8 goals to 1 for the term, including 7 in a row, and took complete control of the match.
Welcome back to Werribee, Ben McKinley.
The Dolphins rallied in the opening minutes of the final term and looked a challenger with the first 2 goals of the quarter. But Werribee's Ben Warren had other ideas, with the ball on a string at the other end. Frankston set the benchmark in the first half, but Werribee was all class in the second, powering home to win by 39 points. Ben Warren was brilliant with 9 goals for the Tigers, while Michael Lowry gave his all for the Dolphins and finished with 5 majors. In the other games, Essendon broke a 4-game losing streak with a dominant 10-goal win over Sandringham. Casey had no problems disposing of Collingwood by 90 points, and Geelong flexed their muscles against the Northern Blues, winning by 10 goals. The Scorpions have claimed top spot on the ladder after 3 straight wins, while Werribee have worked their way up to 7th. At the bottom end of the table, North Ballarat and Frankston are eagerly searching for their 3rd win of the season. After their first loss of the season, Claremont was looking to make a statement when they travelled to West Perth to meet the second-place Falcons, who were eager to prove themselves as serious contenders. Claremont looked strong early, the first goal an impressive play on snap from Ian Richardson. After a slow start, the Falcons fought back with one of their own.
Scooping it up and with a chance to kick the goal, he's put it through Marisic. On debut, he gets a major.
The Tigers kicked the last 3 goals of the quarter, with Thomas Taylor making things look a bit too easy. Richardson started in the second quarter with 3 goals for the Tigers, including 1 on the run to start proceedings, as Claremont gave themselves a big lead going into the break.
Out towards Medhurst. Medhurst will snap. Medhurst will goal.
Down by 41, the Falcons came out firing after the break, kicking the first 3, and within minutes the margin was back to 22 points. The Tigers had all the answers. kicking the next 4, and despite a late goal from Andrew Strike, they retained a 40-point lead at the last break. The Falcons fans had a lot to shout about, with Mark Hutchings back in the side, and another surge saw the margin back within 15 points, but Richardson still had plenty to give.
Looks like a goal. It is a goal. You can see what that meant for the Tigers.
Despite regular surges by West Perth, Claremont dominated the top of the table clash to come out victors by 21 points. Andrew Foster was outstanding in the midfield, and Ian Richardson and Chad Jones kicked 4 goals each. For West Perth, Mark Hutchings was best on, with plenty of the ball and 3 goals. Across town, East Fremantle bounced back from a disappointing loss the previous week with a 35-point victory over Peel Thunder. And the other game saw Subiaco clear winners over South Fremantle by 53 in their 3rd straight win. The victory puts Claremont 4 games clear on top of the WAFL ladder, while after their big wins, Subiaco are well on the way to earning a top 4 spot.
Just a reminder, on ABC One around the country you can see all the local footy action. Shoot Shield is the rugby union, that's why it's shorter program, so it starts at 3:30 in the morning, and then the VFL on Wednesday mornings at 2:30. Thursdays it's the SANFL, and Fridays of course the WAFL. Well, back to this match, and Andrew Rogers, hasn't been scintillating entertainment, but it has been close.
Yeah, it has. It's certainly a close game. As I said, both teams really are devoid of a little bit of confidence coming off poor losses last week and just finding itself out. As I said, South have looked a better team, but they really haven't hurt the Eagles on the scoreboard. And the Eagles, their class has kept themselves in the game.
Well, scores are level at half-time if you've just joined us, so we haven't got a great number of highlights as such as we go down to Benny Knights, but neither we can talk about one highlight, and that's Caleb Daniel, who's been very impressive in his first game. We've seen him in the under-18 packages, but he's been very good at league level.
Absolutely, Crossy. We've got a few highlights here of young Caleb Daniel. He's only a 16-year-old fella, still at school. He's come into the league side today as his debut game. He's played under 16s, under 18s, reserves, and now earned his spot in the league. I spoke to Ron Fuller at the start of the game, and he spoke to me about him just being a true footballer, being the sort of guy that I guess just goes about his footy, just chases the ball. He's a true footballer and just the sort of bloke that Ron Fuller really wants in the team. Some of these highlights, you see that he's really, really lively up forward. He did cop a pretty nasty whack there from Big Dave from the Eagles, who put one through him, and that's he sat on the bench for the last 15 minutes or so of that first quarter, but he came back on in the second quarter, did things like that where he's, again, extremely lively, 2-3 efforts in a row, and he copped a sling tackle, a nasty sling tackle as well from Kane Mitchell late in that second quarter. So he's been amongst the action, he's been getting a fair bit of the football, he's been very, very lively, but he's also copped a couple of knocks. Just incidentally, this year he's been 3 times named best on ground for the under-18s at South. So as I said at the start, Ron Fuller just wrapped with the way he's gone about his footy. He's just kept on working. He's deserved his reserves call-up, and then today he's deserved his league call-up, and showing, I guess, exactly what Ron wants in just a lively forward and someone who's very dangerous around goals. So keep an eye out for him in that second quarter.
Thanks for that, Benny. We'll keep an eye out for him in the second half, in fact, as we look forward to that at the moment. And look, when you look at that match, and certainly from Caleb Daniel thus far, he's been impressive. He come from Edwardstown originally, and the other kid that's come through, Joseph Haynes, his son of Peter, who played 151 games for South, and his grandfather Colin played for South as well, so a 3rd generation. And South, Ronnie Fuller must have been looking for this effort this afternoon that he's managed to find.
Yeah, I think so. And look, we saw the highlights earlier of against the Magpies, and they really were devoid of any real energy about how they played, and desperation and discipline, and just as a group they look really flat. And obviously during the week they've sort of identified that and are really giving something, and all they're looking for is a strong contest. And they've certainly given that today, and they give themselves a chance in a game. Anytime you compete strongly, then you're a chance. So, and they've done that today. And the Eagles, who aren't in sparkling touch, are they? You know, they got touched up last week by the Double Blues. Confidence is probably a little bit low, trying to play a little bit on their own terms. Still think the class will probably get them over the line this afternoon. But you know, if the Panthers can maintain that type of pressure, then it certainly will be an interesting second half.
Well, you certainly think that, well, they've got Michael Wonke up forward, and they haven't made the most of their opportunities, perhaps, South, and they've made some mistakes like this that have just given the Eagles just that boost to know, yes, we're still in the contest.
Yeah, certainly for the first quarter and a half, they were clearly the better side, dominated inside 50s and didn't really put them away, and then late in the quarter made a couple of bad errors, let the Eagles back in the game.
Yeah, so 1 point the margin at quarter time. and then it was all level at half-time, 3 goals, 5 apiece, and only individual goal kickers for both sides. We mentioned about Wonky up forward being important for South, and Staple has kicked one for the Eagles, probably their lead forward at the moment. Go through those figures and the statistics, most notably the Eagles. You mentioned the mistakes. Late in the quarter, 5 of the last 6 forward 50 entries went to the Eagles.
And I think what it highlights there is that South have actually had the better of the game. They just haven't been as efficient as they've gone forward and haven't used the ball as well as the Eagles as they've gone forward. But I think the other thing to note is the kick to handball ratio there. It's a little bit slippery, a little bit wet. Kick the footy more than your handball.
Let's have a look at the other game on this afternoon. Port Adelaide leading Norwood by just 4 points over at Alberton. So we'll keep you in touch with that. And of course, 2 games to come tomorrow. Sturt Glenelg, North against Central. Plenty to come in the second half here. Let's go to Chris Kendall.
Certainly set for intrigue. Both of these teams, their third quarter records, 1-4, lost 5. Don't get much more even than that. Eagles, interestingly, free kick count 16-5 in favour of South Adelaide. The Eagles have been the umpire's friend the last 7 weeks. A 5-2 differential of getting more free kicks than conceding. So certainly something Michael Godden will be wanting to work on. Getting that discipline a little bit better. Should be set for a cracking second half here on ABC 1. Gotch tries to work his way through the Sumner tackle. Ball to ground. Gonna have a ball up. Get some of the leading possession getters from Corey Ogilvie shortly. 3-5 apiece. So much on the line for both of these clubs. Brooksby getting the tap down. Trying to soccer it away. Initially there was Redagolo. Another stoppage, another ball up. Corey, leading possession getters in the first half, please.
Yes, Chris, Little still leading the way for the Panthers with 16. Cross had 8 in that quarter up to 14, and Gotch with 13. And for the Eagles, Goldsworthy's the only one in double figures with 11.
Goldsworthy's played a lot of that first half in defence. They certainly saw plenty of it down there. Luke Powell wrestling with Cross for the ball. Umpire steps in to break up that stoppage.
You have to think Nicholas Murphy on Luke Jarrett's been a win for Ron Fuller. Certainly Luke Jarrett's impact on the game has been minimal.
Cross gets it away from the clearance. Sitting on the best position there was Raymond. Just do it with too high. That's going to be a free kick there to Raymond. Yeah, Luke Jarrett, he's been well down on his normal numbers, Andrew. Only 12 disposals average in the last 2 weeks. You tend to feel if you can cut Jarrett right out of the contest, that's a long way to cutting the Eagles out.
Particularly with his run and carry and his ability to get outside contests. And they haven't had anybody today who's been able to get outside and really break open the game.
Another worry for the Eagles too, boys. Kane Mitchell limping off to the boundary here and not looking overly convincing that he might be back later in the game. So definitely hurt something.
His power teammate received it there from Heath, who just coughed the ball up. Back half now, it's Giddings for South Adelaide. Picks them further up the lines. Pfeiffer. So South Adelaide just dictating the pace of the game very much at the moment, bringing him board towards Brooksby, who's got the running Little. He goes up long towards centre half forward, couldn't quite take it there was Archie. Ball spins out into the Heath direction. Day, Kane. Numbers cruising through the half-back line. Now it's a one-on-one contest. Fields is leading in the race for the ball. He should have a bit too much toe, you'd think ordinarily for Salter, but it's an excellent tackle there for Salter. Port will be thrilled with that. We're going to have a boundary throw in centre wing.
It's a good play by Tom Fields. You could always see the ball was going to come this side. He actually worked his positioning early, was to get boundary side of Salter and get there at Kane Mitchell. It looks like a left ankle, if anything.
Then he's closer than we are. The ball comes back to play for the Eagles. Powell with one of the worst kicks you'll ever see. Still found Poole. Poole into the pocket, perhaps looking for Goldsworthy, who turned around the appropriate moment. Worried out of it, though, by Redagolo. Now comes away for Pfeiffer for South Adelaide. Oh, his kick just wasn't able to find Fields. As a result, Powell and Poole work the ball again. Now off the left foot of Lewis, and delicately pops the ball inside 50 and finds only the chest of an opposition player in Pfeiffer. So Pfeiffer releases it. Releases it wide, and then Giddings, he goes wider again to the skipper and Thoulis. Thoulis then back inboard, Murphy, the former skipper. So he's still at right half back. And taking his time. Called to play on, no, not quite, but he kicked it anyway. And in the end, Nathan Daniels sat under that, didn't know what was coming, took a good mark. So now they're all the way up towards half forward, and they go to the big man in 1Q, takes the ball in the chest, and he's still 50 from goal. In fact, I thought the mark was taken on the 50. The umpire said, no, that's okay. So 1Q takes his time, probably out of his range. In fact, he was out of his range, so he went to Gotch. But he was a full forward, Andrew. I was thinking maybe.
You never out of your range as a full forward.
So Gotch looks, waits, and inside 50, 1Q got free. How did that happen? And so now he is considered within range. Man on the mark standing about 45, maybe even less than that, maybe 40 metres from goal. So a chance to put his side back in front is Kane Mitchell, still being dealt with down there. And Nida, there's a chance. What have you got?
Crossy, look, just starting to get him to do a couple of run-throughs. They've done the assessment on both the ankle and the knee as well, and again, it's above the ankle. It's sort of lower calf that they've been looking at, but just doing some run-throughs and looking better, I could say, but still, again, not convincing.
And Mitchell, certainly right, not exactly convincing. That is a very good description, Nida. Heath, comes in board, centre half-back Borholm, back to Heath. Works it around to the Thompson direction. So Luke Thompson, still at half-back, called to play on. Brings it in board to Summerton. So Jake Summerton. He's got a few numbers presenting for him. First of those is Borholm at half-back. That's going to be 25, knocked out of his hands. Disappointing there for South Adelaide.
Yeah, it's not a bad 25 though. It slows the play down, and it should allow his teammates to be able to man up, which they haven't done.
No, they haven't, because Summerton's broken free. He's got numbers flanking on his outside, Thompson. Brings it in board. Down there again for Borholm, who's drifted down. Oh, he puts on the afterburners, the big man. Unloads from 50. That is not the greatest kick you'll see. And he just bounced inside the boundary line. Mark Borholm on the run. That's not something you call very often.
It's not a great ball drop, is it, though?
No, his eyes certainly lit up. Unfortunately, enthusiasm wasn't matched with execution. Ball spins back in. Panthers trying to work this one away now through Pfeiffer. Hardigan. Got numbers over the top. Gotch. Nathan Daniel. Redagolo. Further down the lines. That's a little bit too hot down there for Brown. Boundary throwing.
Chris, Kane Mitchell's had a compression bandage placed on that left leg just above the ankle, so it's definitely not his ankle, again not his knee, so I'm looking at maybe a knock to the lower calf. He's lining up to come back on as we speak.
Well, if it is muscular, you would think he can't afford to sit down for too long. Keep it warm, keep it going while you can. Generally the theory. Gotch off the back of the pack, down to half forward. 1Q diving at the ball, unable to get in the mark. And off the ground comes Day, does well. Back to Campbell Heath. And then why they go to Raymond. Raymond knocked off balance, kick wasn't great. Nor was the effort in trying to take it from South Adelaide. But eventually comes to 1Q, pops it forward. Thewlis seemed to have been roving across half forward and half back this afternoon. He pops it inside 50. Crabb has the ball knocked to the front. Roundtree gathers, interesting hand pass. They've lost it. The snap now from Snook, and he hits the post. Such a disappointment, 2 points to margin. South Adelaide, they do lead in what has been a tight, tough, and at times very rugged contest.
In a game where there hasn't been a lot of goal-scoring opportunities, there was a significant one just to give him some breathing space.
Snook cast the net for the goal and came up short. Mitchell, this will test out things straight away, takes it on the chest. Wheels around. That's an interesting sort of a kick in the direction of Chris Kane. It's going to fall fairly short. Redagolo should cut that off. South just trying to work it through numbers. Gotch. A few hands in there. He's been called for holding the ball. So Mitchell brings it in board to Hindjoss. Roundtree. Roundtree looking down there for Pull. He should hit him on the chest and does. Right on the 50-metre arc. Needs to move it on quickly. Don't want to give South too much time to flood numbers back. Sumner. He'll be looking to try and break the lines. Pokes it in board, looking for Staple. Good work there from Staple. Taking some of the pressure off Ainger today. Ainger hasn't kicked the goal yet. Staple will be lining up for his second.
Just not so sure about the pull handball out wide to Sumner. It really did limit the positions that the Eagles forwards could run into. They had to lead to his left leg, which was into the pocket. While Paul had it, they certainly had both sides of the ground to work to.
On cue, Paul comes to the bench with Staple. This to rest the lead back for the Eagles. Kicks on its way. Straight through the centre. The Eagles hit the front. Staple, the first multiple goal scorer on the ground.
They really have hurt that South on the rebound. South have had a number of inside 50s again in this quarter. The Eagles go forward. There's that handball. Just would rather Paul kick that one because all it limited was the room that Staple could lead into, which was always going to be to the left foot of Sumner and into that pocket. At least while Paul had it, he could kick it to the fat side of the ground or the grandstand side of the ground. But Staple, he looks a hard worker. He does lead up at the footy and keep presenting himself.
Andrew, we talked this quarter about the job that Nick Murphy's done on Luke Jarrod. Both of those boys come to the bench for a break, so Nick Murphy came straight off behind Luke Jarrod.
So it's Chris Kane down for the Eagles behind play in the centre circles, very slow to get up. Meanwhile, the ball moves towards that outer side of the ground, still inside the centre square. 4 points to the margin in favour of the Eagles. It's been a very tough struggle for both sides to get clean possession out there. It does look okay, the ground, but there was some rain earlier and that misty type of rain that just leaves the ball a little bit slippery. The skills haven't been pristine, shall we say, this afternoon. Now it's hacked down towards half forward and almost taken by Salter for the Eagles. Falls to Fields, who lost it in the tackle. Now Salter again. Salter with hand pass option to Powell. Powell saw some open space this side for Sumner. Sumner can go down the ground, or will he go back to his left foot? He's decided to go back and just take the kick. Well, he had Goldsworthy available initially, and now he decides to go across the arc of 50, and somehow Luke Powell was standing by himself, 49 from goal, straight out in front, doesn't trust his leg, wants to go short. Mitchell provides a lead, and again South Adelaide just unable to cut it off.
Both of them. Luke Powell is always going to stretch him the kick. I'm not sure if Mitchell looks too confident either.
Mitchell's not confident. He goes short as well. He missed Salter, who, if he'd taken it, would have absolutely nailed that distance. Now we get a free kick. Now we'll see how good I am, because I think he won't have any problems from this sort of distance.
He's walking back to the play, so he's very confident he's going to get the journey.
Yeah, Luke Powell, 49 out. He would have had to carry the ball 50 metres. Definitely didn't back himself. And Kane Mitchell, of course, we know that he's probably picked up some sort of calf injury. He didn't back himself either.
Important kick in the context of the game here.
Yeah, 4-point lead at the moment. Game high was 14 to South Adelaide halfway through the second term. And now it's 10 points in favour of the Eagles with Nick Salter. He certainly covered the distance.
Yeah, look, he's a great kick for goal, always has been, highly skilled. Just been a bit injury-ridden, and here's the Mitchell kick taking the game on. And in the context of the game, that's probably one that they've let go a number of times today. But such is this game that you've got to make the most of your opportunities. And we saw earlier Snook have an opportunity down forward, doesn't straighten his body, kicks a point, hits the post. Salter, classy finish.
Eagles showing the benefit while playing in front. First 3 kicks of this quarter, margin out to 10 points. Now, about this time in a game that it gets very interesting for South Adelaide, as a rule. Little just gets a touch the fumbles. Hindjus, good work by the big man, gets it back towards Roundtree. Spins around off the defensive side of the centre square, spots up Goldsworthy. Goldsworthy pokes it in towards the 50, looking down there for Salter. Staples in there also, but too high. Paul, I should say. So Pfeiffer will be the recipient of the free kick for the Panthers. Pfeiffer, he's got a couple of numbers presenting to his left, but they're mainly shut down, so he's got to keep it now on that outer side. Long lead down there. Thulis was surely worried out of it illegally. Umpire disagreed. Mark for the Eagles. They poke it in towards the Salter direction, who's found space. So certainly within his range. Pretty quiet in that first half, Nick Salter. Been very good this season, averaging just over 3 goals a game. is to get the margin out to 16 points. Could be a game high for either team.
You go, pass it, I'll go next one.
Very deliberate approach. We're kicking from right on the point of 50. Unloads. Plenty of air to it. Plenty of execution to it. Straight through the centre. Margin is now out to 16 points, and after holding the ascendancy for the entire first half, the gauntlet now thrown to South Adelaide, Andrew.
Yeah, I just thought the Todd Pfeiffer kick out of the fence was a little bit safe. You know, early on, they didn't get a lot of movement from his teammates. There's Roundtree. That's smart play. Gets back quickly off the mark. Doesn't allow the South on bowlers to come back and fill the hole. And Nick Soldy doesn't need a lot of kicks to hurt you, and we'll see it in this quarter. He's only had 2 kicks, 2 goals.
Was the umpire in good position to rule that that was definitively a goal? Because Kyle Harding obviously didn't think it was a goal.
No, he certainly put his case forward to the goal umpire.
Out of the middle, South Adelaide with the clearance through Little. Wide he goes. Players just pile on top of the man in front in Thulis, and it won't be play on advantage, it'll come back. And Caleb Daniel not backward and going forward, then he was slung to the ground, got up and pushed Jared in the back. Meanwhile, game continues with Thulis with the free kick. Waiting, there's plenty of room inside 50 to lead up the centre. He's gone with the high kick, and the 2 Eagles players could have raffled it. Brown was waiting to see if there was a crumb for South Adelaide. It wasn't to be. Day looks wide. I think he was looking for Mitchell. He only found Thulis, tried to push off Jared, got it to the former skipper, so captain to former captain again, and he puts it inside 50. Brown almost met it. Roundtree off the pack. Now Kane didn't like to go forward, so he decided to go back. And Gafrida, compact kicking style, shall we say. And he found Goldsworthy, who's been quiet this afternoon. Still defensive side of centre wing for the Eagles. He's taking a risk through the middle, and Roundtree's wandered there by himself. Down to half forward he goes, looking for Staple with the lead up, finds him, can go over the top. Angel makes his way back there. He has a choice, in fact. I think the kick was meant for Angel, who was hobbling somewhat, and Lewis came in and said, "Don't worry, mate, I've got it." Daniel off the ground.
Great vision by Goldsworthy, though, to look back in the middles. They haven't really used the middle a lot. It's been very much, both teams have tried not to use the corridor and have used it wide. Played real safe footy. You can see there the Eagles are the beneficiary there through Goldsworthy's good vision.
See there, Lewis already with 1 goal for the afternoon. Hasn't been conspicuous, shall we say, but here he comes for his second. And gets it through, makes a goal umpire do a little bit of work, but certainly they've taken control of the match now, the Eagles.
Yeah, that's their class is starting to pay off now. And it's just one of South's problems. They can't maintain it for long periods of time. There's a Goldsworthy kick in the middle. As I said, Staple will always continue to lead up. And just good awareness to get back quickly. If it wasn't Angel, it was Lewis. They just got goal side of their opponents.
South led by 14 points at the 15-minute mark of the second term, and since that period have kicked only 2 more behinds. And from then, Eagles 6 goals 2. And that, you feel in some ways, sums up South Adelaide's season today. Still plenty of time. Brooksby gets the tap down.
Come on, Ace, keep that pressure.
Clever work in there from Lewis. Sends it out to Mitchell. Mitchell wheels around, pokes it inboard for Staple, just to his feet. Pulls at the bottom, gets it back towards Staple. Eagles coming up towards the hot spot. Drifting across was Goldsworthy, couldn't quite get the mark. Panthers should be able to work this one out now through Pfeiffer. Needs to spot up the target because this is into the form of Jared. He's going to have to go into his right now, like it or not. Goldsworthy all by himself. Gets off the handball towards Salter, who unloads. Margin out to 28 points. Quick ball movement was the key there. Panthers caught flat-footed, Andrew.
Yeah, just completely Luke Jared won a one-on-one. Ron Fuller suddenly got his worries there in the coach's box. They have dropped their intensity in their tackling. This is a clever kick by Jared. Probably he's developed that right side. Not sure about running outside onto your right foot, but Solder, he's a classy player, and you can finish him with 3 goals for the quarter. He's been the player who's really stepped up and broken open the game.
I've heard of designated kickers in the back line, but fair dinkum, he's a designated kicker at goal at the moment, isn't he? They're doing everything they can to get the ball in his hands.
Yeah, if we go back probably in the mid-2000s and early 2000s, Stuart Jew was one that did it for certainly Central Districts. They gave him the footy at every time, any time inside 50.
Centre clearance for South Adelaide. Crabb was desperate again, but Summer comes in. Sumner came in, and then the Panthers able to take control into the pocket. Snook pushed off the ball by Gafrida. Snook came again and forced the ball over the line. A 25 around from the goal case for South Adelaide. Boy, do they need a goal right now. Nothing in that. So, ball to be thrown in. Snook showing some badly needed desperation. And off the pack, 3 Eagles with the tackle. Campbell Heath with the main bear hug on Schwartz. So get another ball up. Schwartz probably would have been looking to playing his brother this afternoon, but he got dropped from the Eagles lineup. Brother Tom made his debut a couple of weeks ago along with Schwartz from South Adelaide. So ball out of bounds on the full now, and an opportunity for the Eagles to attack again.
Sumner brings it in forward to Heath, who's gone to ground. High tackle there. He'd lost his feet. Bit of clumsy tackle there from Haynes. Crowd figures just come through. 1,203. That's a bit of a concern, I would suggest, for the South Adelaide Football Club. Especially, it's been cut off down there for South Adelaide's sloppy possession. The Panthers really do need this goal desperately, you'd say.
Yeah, not Campbell Heath's best work. Certainly was lucky enough to get the free kick after stumbling and then just to turn the footy over when the Eagles had all the momentum in this quarter.
So South kicks on its way. Minor score. Really needed to nail that one, you'd have to say. But the margin back to 27 points.
So into time on now in the third quarter. The Eagles are certainly taking control of the game. Big pack, not really able to get it. Clean disposal finally comes out well, sort of. Roundtree then came. The initial disposal by Lewis was questionable. Poor decision to hand pass that to the big man, and Hine just turns it over for the Eagles. Kick by Thulis. Raymond intercepted. They still have the numbers, South Adelaide. Little back to the first game of Haynes, then Little again, and then he looked for his running mate and cross, and he missed him just slightly. Archie with a big tackle on Day. Finally comes to Gafrida. Gafrida's intent was probably, let's just get out of here, but it hasn't worked out too badly. Carey, interesting chip, went about 5 metres, can't pay that as a mark. Cool gives it to Kane, and then the kick around the corner wasn't the best. And now South Adelaide are in there again, so is Powell. South Adelaide though with possession through Schwartz. Tumbly old kick, doesn't quite make it to the man he intended in Brown. And he's caught on the ground, has to release it. Day comes away for the Eagles.
Day gets it out towards Sumner. He's caught in the decision as to whether to get the handball over the top to Gafrida. Does follow his instinct. Gafrida kicks it up towards the Salter direction. Pfeiffer working off the bottom of the pack. Now it's to Archie. Gets it back in the 1-2. Redagolo, plenty of space out here, grandstand side, but it's one-on-ones ahead of him. He'll try and put it out into a bit of space. Spots up the mark, good work. Down there from Gotch. Gotch wheels around into centre half forward. He was looking down there for Little. Caleb Daniel lending support. Goldsworthy, he's happy enough to create a stoppage. All up. Trailing by 27 points, South Adelaide, after scores were level at half-time. Eagles putting the foot down now. Challenge really resting on the Eagles. Let's try and get something back. Over at Alberton. Magpies leading Nord by 16 points. Ken McGregor would be thrilled at the moment. Nathan Bassett scratching his head a little bit at that one. In saying that, Magpies haven't been playing bad footy the last few weeks.
And Norwood really won last week's game when they blew them away in the first quarter, and their last 3 quarters were just workman-like. So, good effort by the Magpies.
Raymond spinning it out into the direction of Staple. Worried out of it there by Snoot. High tackle. It's going to be out for Snook. Giddings, I should say. Brings it back inboard. Fields poking it further down the lines. That's an interesting sort of kick. Nathan Daniels going to have to be at his best. So he certainly didn't have it there was Andrew Ainger. He'll be too far out to score. He gets the ball back quickly enough. Salter's out free, but that's been manned up. Kane Mitchell's still free. To his side, Carey calls for it. Now he's setting this up for Mitchell. Works his way towards the front with ease. Just lost Giddings altogether back there, Andrew, and Mitchell lining up for his first SANFL goal.
Yeah, you know you've always got a defender when he takes his eye off the footy. And Josh Giddings there, just looking for a body contact. Mitchell just stepped around him way too easy.
And Mitchell coming up for disposal number 13. This to get the margin out to 33 points. Eagles, you would have to say, all over South Adelaide in every facet of the game at the moment.
Yeah, just a switch out of defence for the Panthers. It just was over a long distance and it allowed goals where they push back into space and create a contest. And then Ainger gets the recipient of a free kick and then that's pushed hard forward. Mitchell's known for his work rate. He pushed hard forward and gets a well-deserved goal. 13 possessions, look, not outstanding, but he's certainly working his way into this game.
Comes a crucial few minutes for South Adelaide. Late in the third quarter, 33 points down, having started the quarter with things all square. And we'll get a secondary ball up here.
It's been symbolic of their season though, really, hasn't it? They've certainly competed for a half or a quarter or 3/4 of a game. Just been let down, unable to maintain it for longer periods of time, and just fall away in their work rate and fall away and can't compete for long enough.
Reality is coming into the game, they'd only won 10 quarters of football and 2 they've drawn level this season, so they have struggled. They've struggled for momentum, and certainly when they've had momentum a couple of times in this match, they haven't taken advantage. A big tackle by Daniel Bass on Sumner, and it'll be a free kick, there's no doubt. This was in the back, I shouldn't have thought. It was very straightforward. You can see his intent there. So Sumner now, an opportunity to send the Eagles forward. Call to play on, he might get tackled again. No, just chips it. So Campbell Heath, he takes his time, has a look up. His option is to go out wide, miss a target and send it over the boundary line. So not a great end to the quarter for the Eagles, but nevertheless it was a good quarter for them. And at 3/4 time, they have control of this match. It's the Eagles 9-5-59, South Adelaide 3-8-26.
So much about modern day footy is taking your opportunities when you have momentum. South Adelaide in that first half was certainly the better team. Didn't make the most of their opportunities, and the class of the Eagles, and particularly their forward line, and Nick Solder in particular, really took over that quarter. They got the ball forward, they used him, they hit him up really well, and he only needed basically 3 kicks for the quarter to really change this game. And as I said, they have all the momentum coming into 3/4 time. Great test for the character of the Panthers. And Ron Fuller probably understands the game's gone, but try to win this last quarter is what his ideal outcome would be.
3/4 time at Noarlunga, 33 the margin in favour of the Eagles. So South Adelaide, must be said, again on course for their 6th loss at home this season without a win at home. So you wouldn't really back them from here, especially more than 5 goals down. Let's look at what happened last Monday. Of course, Queen's Birthday weekend, long weekend, round 10 of SANFL football. Glenelg taking on North Adelaide would have been a signature match in the 80s. They were celebrating the Bays, the fact that they won a premiership back in 1973. And that had been the first premiership since 1934. And of course, there's only 2 others in 85 and 86. They didn't play like premiership players.
No, look, they've had a fantastic rivalry. They've mirrored each other, really, as clubs during the 80s when I first started playing my footy. They were fierce rivals, and in certainly the early 70s, they were fierce rivals as well. But at the moment, there is a fair class difference between the 2 groups. The Roosters certainly, they'd lost a lot of players over the pre-season, some of their key players. but they've come together as a group when they're sharing the load a lot better than what they've done in previous years. If you're a Bay supporter at the moment, unfortunately, they're in a little bit of a hole.
Well, it was a reasonable start in the first quarter from the Bays. They still trailed by 3 points at quarter time. North Adelaide hit their straps in the second term when they kicked 6 goals, 8 to 2 goals, 2. Took a 38-point lead to half-time. 6-8, 14 shots at goal to 4 in the second quarter.
Yeah, it's a bit uncompetitive, isn't it, if you're a Bay supporter. But look, good teams can get away with that. But unfortunately, against the better teams in the competitions like your Norwoods and your West, if you have those lulls in matches, they're going to hurt you.
Better third quarter from the Bays. That wasn't the best of kicks at goal, was it? But better third quarter from the Bays. They got it back to a 29-point margin. You could say the Roosters maybe took the foot off the gas. Interesting Nathan Gordon turn there and got it off to Cohen Teely, it was, who kicked that goal. Gordon ended up with 16 possessions, 6 goals, 4 for his afternoon.
Yeah, they've got, certainly, as I said, just the loss of some of those key on ballers they lost last year has enabled some of those other fringe players to really step up. And as I said, they're really sharing the loads of Strings and players like that who were, second tier last year, are really stepped up and are really taking the responsibility and the leadership responsibilities down there at Prospect.
Just looking at Jay Shannon, 29 possessions, 10 clearances, 3 goals, 1. For a guy who last season was playing at Port Adelaide in the reserves and then at Belconnen for a few matches in the ACT, he's had a remarkable resurrection as a player.
Look, and he was an outstanding junior footballer and probably lacked a little bit of confidence as he came through, and then all of a sudden he's made the most of that opportunity through losing some of those players that I spoke about.
Silverware there for the match between the Roosters and the Tigers. The Roosters will be certainly thinking possibly that's not the only silverware they're going to see this season. 58-point victory, though, for the Roosters on Monday down at the Bay, and in front of it, must be said, a healthy crowd too as well. Let's go down to Benny Knights, and Nida, what can you say about South Adelaide?
Look, Crossy, a 6-goal to zip third quarter is certainly not what Ron Fuller or South Adelaide needed. Ron's come down, he's pretty controlled. He's been in this position a few times this season, unfortunately for him and for South Adelaide. He's just after his boys to lift. He said, look, first quarter, second quarter, fantastic in terms of levelling possessions, contested possessions, positive movements and so forth, but that quarter just really dropped off. Let the quality ball winners of the Eagles get on top. They won a lot of the footy in the contested and the congestion, and that contested footy really hurt them, and then they just weren't accountable enough when they took the ball forward. So, simple things like manning up Mitchell, manning up Solder around half forward and the inside 50, that's what he's after, and he just wants them to step back up to the way they played that first half again.
Thanks for that, Benny. And we'll just have a look there at Ron Fuller addressing his players. He does get steamed up on occasion, doesn't he? But not this afternoon. I guess he's just looking to build.
Yeah, I think, look, early on, I think in his coaching career, he was really, very emotional and very passionate. And I think he's lost that passion. He's just a lot more controlled and a lot more experienced as he goes through. He would just be reinforcing the basics here about competing, tackling, moving the ball quickly. All those basics is what he spoke about, and trying to keep it as simple as he can.
Okay, let's have a look at the other game this afternoon. Port Adelaide by 16 points over Norwood. So the Redlegs under a lot of pressure there against their traditional rivals, and the final quarter over there has started, so we can guarantee that by the time this match ends, we will have a score there from Albert, and certainly the Eagles in that third quarter, very impressive. And so they should be. Well, not super impressive in what a match that hasn't been of great standard, but nevertheless, they should be pretty impressive over South Adelaide, a side that has really struggled at home. Sturt playing Glenelg tomorrow. You can see that match, as well as North Adelaide taking on Central District. We'll go down to Benny Knights, and he's with Michael Godden down on ground level. Nida.
God just said to me, is my hair glistening in the sunlight, so he must be a little bit more relaxed than perhaps you were at half time, Gods.
Yeah, I'll be relaxed in 30 minutes. I mean, we've had a couple of weeks where we've been pretty poor, and the boys were much better that quarter, but we must maintain that now. Our energy levels lifted, and we were much stronger around the footy, but South will come back. They're a proud footy club, and I have no doubt they will, so we have to stick with them.
I thought what you did well, you already mentioned it, is inside ball. A couple of your real hard nuts and your quality players got their hands on the footy, and that opened the game up a little bit and allowed you to get the ball forward more freely.
Yeah, absolutely. When contested footy wins games of footy, and our last couple of weeks we've been really poor at that, so that's been the main message now. They must win the contested footy, must tackle well, and if that happens, the rest of it seems to unfold.
Oh, good luck in this last quarter, Gods.
Thanks.
Yep, I think he's a bit more relaxed than he was certainly last week when they were beaten by the Double Blues. Ronnie Fuller with his problems, there's no doubt about that, but You know, it seems to be always a battle down here at Noarlunga.
It does. I think the ground makes it a little bit that way, and you can see today's conditions. It's always going to be a tough environment.
Let's go for the final quarter. Here's Chris Kendall.
Eagles certainly love final quarters. They've won 6 and only lost 3 this season. South Adelaide have a 1-6 record in final quarters. And that was a meeting of 2 fine heads of hair down there with Nida and Gods. Brooksby tried to get the tap down. Wrapped up in a tackle is Kane. Ball up. So South just really want to try and finish the game out at the moment. They certainly look to have their chances in that first half. They're going to get the centre clearance here. Puts it out towards Cross, who's been relatively quiet today. Spots up towards Crabb, just over his head. Archie tries to retain control, has a flying shot at the goals, out in the full. Under pretty heavy pressure though, Rolly Archie. As of course with Nord last season, opted to cross back over to South Adelaide to play with 2 of his best mates. Rolf and Taylor. Lewis brings it inboard. Oh, couldn't quite take the mark down there for the Eagles. It was Raymond. We're going to have a throw, and we'll get the stats to 3/4 time from Corey Ogilvie in just a moment. That's Eagles leading by 33 points. What can South Adelaide conjure up? Ball spins back in. Brooksby try to get the tap down. 2 number 9s going at it. Little gets off the bottom of the pack and we'll have a ball up. Corey, those stats to 3/4 time, please.
Yes, Chris, you just mentioned Joel Cross. He's up to 18 for the game. He only had 4 in the 3rd quarter. Little leading the way still with 21. And for the Eagles, Campbell Heath with 15 and Goldsworthy with 14.
Yeah, he's been pretty good back there. Thanks, Corey. He has been very good in playing that sweeping role, and he's had penetration with disposal also. Young Haynes going with Sumner now. That'll be a good test for the first gamer. Right on cue. Gets the chance to stop Sumner. The ball up. Honjus gets the tap down. Another stoppage. Another ball up. We've called this one so many times today, but I know deep down one person can break that. Over to you, Crossy.
South need to break this up a bit now. That they can't play a 5 goals not an honourable loss. Get a 3rd jumper up or get Brooksby to knock the ball forward and try to get somebody running into space. They've got to kick goals.
Yeah, just trying to palm it, isn't he? Heinges out to Lewis, showed the ball nicely, and then the torp, if you don't mind, off a step down to centre wing. Ball comes to the front. Nathan Daniels slipped the hand pass. Umpire said it was in the back. So the free kick will go back to South Adelaide. Crabb, who's gone out of the game, provides a big lead here, but he's about 4 deep, coming from behind. Thurles goes to ground under the tackle, and we'll get a ball up.
And that's another example there. Just can't afford to just kick it down the line. You've got to make something happen here. You know, as I said, a 5-goal loss is not what they're about. They want to make sure they get the game and play an attractive brand of footy.
Kane taken to ground. That might be holding the ball. No, the umpire just refuses to keep holding the ball. And I reckon in that last passage, a little bit to the right of where we are now, or a little bit further back towards half forward for South Adelaide, I reckon there were 2 or 3 opportunities to give out a free kick as the Eagles struggle to keep the ball in tight. And Haynes on the boo, the redhead there, getting up. Hine just battled his way into the front position. Sumner. And he tried to struggle through the tackle and wasn't going anywhere. Off the ball, a little bit of argy-bargy going on between Lewis and Crabb. And now Crabb almost backed outside the boundary line then. Brooksby this time tries to thump it clear. Cross onto the ball, only briefly. Now they crowd in again. This is reminiscent of the opening quarter. Combative were South Adelaide. They held to the Eagles to 1-3 in the opening quarter. Heinges up high. Kane tries to come through. Lost possession in the tackle. Still they go on. Sumner threw it. Little finally got possession. Off the cross. Has a glance towards the centre of the ground. Set it up, but Jared was good enough to cut off with a nice mark 25 out from his own goal face. And now they're away. Thompson is into space. Ahead of him is the little rocket in Mitchell.
Thompson unloads a pretty impressive effort himself up towards half forward. Staple is in the van. Poole Works it over the boundary line. Throw in. Fair to say that Crab's gone back into his shell after a bright start. Michael Godden looking pretty happy there. Daniel Kirk. Eagles fans will be waiting to see him on the park at some stage this season after crossing over from Glenelg. I find it hard to break into the lineup at the moment. Staple and Ainger. Grokey to come back. Although Kirk can certainly play down back. Brooksby getting the tap down. Another stoppage develops. Another ball up. So the Eagles out to that 33-point lead, game high. Behind just Brooksby. Working through is Kane. Sends it up and towards the attacking zone. Hartigan happy to see that through for a behind. On a score, 34-point margin now to the Eagles.
It's almost time to just go down the middle, isn't it? You know, if you're a South, if you fall back, just go down the middle. Just get your numbers down the middle and see if you can conjure a goal out of, getting the ball out the back and into space.
Fields, former Queenslander, turns it over straight away, straight to the chest of Jarrod. I think if you're going to play on like that, you'd go longer too.
Yeah, try to get it over the top and try to get it out into space. At the moment, kicking long to packs and just down the line, it might get you a goal eventually, but just need to keep... now they need to try to win the game rather than trying to save it.
Well, Luke Jarrod was always looking for a pass, and he's turned it over as well. Tarek Redagolo. And Redagolo quickly slips the ball out the back. Interesting kick off the side of the boot, finds Cross. He was going to claim a mark. Now he goes across the goals dangerously. Perhaps he was kicking to his former teammate Ainger. Off the ground, Goldsworthy. Found Brooksby who marked it. Now Hartigan. So after all that, they have switched the play, but they've gained nothing, South Adelaide. And Hartigan's clearly frustrated back there as well. He goes for another switch. He looks for Pfeiffer. He misses him. Boy, does that sum up South Adelaide's day.
It does.
At least they're trying something there. I don't mind if it would have been easy just to kick down the line and cut your losses, but at least they're trying something here to try to win the game and try to switch the play and get the ball out into space so they can use their skills.
Brooksby in front position against Staple. Mitchell gets the handball out to Goldsworthy. Goldsworthy unloads, kicks on its way. Oh, that's goal of the day, I reckon, there. Matty Goldsworthy, he has been a little down on his normal numbers, but the coach will never mind that when he can jag a goal like that from nowhere.
Oh, look, he's a clever player and played as a 16-year-old under Ron Fuller. He made his way from under 19s it was in those days through the reserves and played senior footy all in 1 year. He played by Kane Mitchell to stay involved with the contest, but doesn't need a lot of possessions here. There's Matthew Goldsworthy. Just lacks that yard of leg speed. If he had that leg speed, he'd probably be almost considered for the higher level, but certainly a potential 200-game player for the Eagles.
And plenty more games to come before he gets to that, because he's only in game number 83 this afternoon. His 97th goal at league level. Ball out of the middle, Archie. Well, he was taken straight to ground. Here's Roundtree off to Jarrod. Knew he was a left footer. Jarrod's created some space by doing that too to Goldsworthy. Goldsworthy goes into half forward with the kick. And just punched away. Well done by Fields, who got in there with a hand pass. Pfeiffer was taken high. He'll get a free kick. Mitchell, he looks to come up sore again after that. We'll keep an eye on that one. Kane Mitchell down at left half forward for the Eagles. Hartigan with a hand pass over the top. Little returns the favour. Hartigan asked to do some work. He goes to Archie, who fumbled as well. They really like making it hard for themselves, the Panthers. Hartigan tries to go inside, found that only that he was treading water out there. Now it's inside 50 for the Eagles. Off the ground, Salter out on the full. That's not how to play football from both sides.
So we'll look back here and see what happened to Salter.
To Mitchell.
Mitchell, I should say. He's been in the wars today, hasn't he, Mitchell? One of those things when you're trying to impress, coming back to the SANFL, and sometimes you can just overcook it a bit. 25-metre penalty to South Adelaide here in defence, who have now gone 55 minutes without a goal since Nick Little's major at the 7-minute mark of the second term. Comes in board to the Thulis direction. He's tried to present. Day at the back. Working his way through there is Caleb Daniel. Brings it in board to Brown. Now Brown, he's got Gotch moving for him out here at half forward. It's a real hospital ball. He's got to be at his best for this. Ball just needs to sit up for him now. Can he finish it off? Yes, he can. Took a long, long time. Just as we're saying it's 55 minutes there, I reckon he must have heard us up here in the box, Andrew.
Yeah, just an ironical cheers here from the South Bay fans, but here's the replay, just gets onside. Summerton not probably something that he'd like to look back on and need to be a little bit stronger in the contest. So let the ball get out the back. Gotchi's been workmanlike tonight. Hasn't been starring in the middle, but he's one of that group that just work hard for Ron Fuller.
Mick Murphy comes off the ground, probably the best conditions of the afternoon for this last quarter. Sun shining. We had some rain earlier, drizzly rain at times. Certainly made the ball slippery and hard to handle in the opening quarter. Here's Gotch. Just got it to Redagolo. Did the dodge, did it pretty well. Now comes the Schwartz and Archie goes back inside to Redagolo, and in the end he's just forced to kick it high and hope. And coming hard was Thompson, knocked it to the front. Another opportunity though will come the way of South Adelaide. Eventually comes back to Brown off the side of the boot, inside 50. Hand pass comes off to Gotch again. Might be 2 in a row for him. It's near the goal square and it'll be marked by Wonky. So he's only 5 metres from the centre of the goals. It'll be very interesting to see this one from Wonky. You'd expect him to kick it. He's such a talent. The question is, well, what am I feeling like doing? It looks like it's the check side. He's missed it. And he's missed it. Probably didn't take enough time with that. And in the end, minor score. So 11 minutes gone in the last quarter. 33 the margin as it was at three-quarter time.
Eagles bring it back in ball, but Thompson takes it at half-back. Good to see plenty of passion there by Campbell Heath. He was going toe-to-toe in a real scrimmage there with Thulis before. Eagles keeping it out of side. Didn't quite take it. There was Goldsworthy. Mitchell tries to work it through the stoppage. Clever hands out there to Goldsworthy. Further down the lines, out in the full. So to bring it back in board to Giddings. Josh Giddings, no, Kane Mitchell, he's starting to really struggle at the moment. Redagolo.
Boys, Kane Mitchell just gave it a little undone as he came off there, so I don't think we'll see him back on that left shin, maybe back of the calf, something there troubling him.
Don't blame him at all. Archie brings it down in board for Thulis, but cutting it off is Jarrod. So Luke Jarrod started to work into it after a quiet first half. It's up again towards the half-forward line. Punch was in there from Goldsworthy, cut off by Archie to Fields to Little. Little keeping it again on the outer side. Hardigan. Very late call from the umpire on the mark. Hardigan is going to cross it back in the defensive half of the ground. Giddings. Got a few numbers moving for him. Now he's going to have to go himself. Puts up a real hospital ball here for Cross, but he's good enough to respond. Cross, he was looking down there for Nathan Daniel. That's too hot for him. Boundary line wins out.
Ordinary kick from Joel Cross. I'm disappointed with that.
Cross, you'd say?
Bass had the better of the ruck contest. Almost like the players stopped there waiting for the free kick, and then high to Goldsworthy inside 50. The kick came from Carey, and Goldsworthy will have a look at the goals. Probably on his distance, I would have thought so. It's going to stretch him. Perhaps Nick Salters around the place. Goldsworthy, well, he's proven us wrong. He's carried it. He was a metre within his distance. And he carries it for the goal. South Adelaide's, the Eagles' second of the final quarter, and 39 now the margin.
Yeah, deceptively good overhead is Matthew Goldsworthy. We've seen him have a couple of flies in this quarter. And just a nice chest mark, but a really good finish. And as I said, what he's renowned for is his finishing, and he's been another avenue to goal. South have really struggled for avenues to goal today, and they've found another avenue to goal. And in the second half, both him and Salter have been the difference in the game.
Byron Sumner getting worked on down there, having a chuckle with the trainers, as you can afford to when you're 39 points up. Matthew Goldsworthy kicking the last 2 goals now for the Eagles. Brooksby got the tap down to Cross, who handed it straight back to him. It's been cut off now by Day. Sends it out to the advantage of the Eagles. Leading in the race for the ball there is Pfeiffer. Gotch. Haynes. Trying to get on that outer side. Crab. Just sees it over the boundary line. A throw in. Kane Mitchell, his day is definitely done there. Looks pretty happy though.
Nice and warm for the first time today, Chris. He's got the blanket on, but big ice pack underneath that. So it'll be interesting to see how he comes up during the week.
Hopefully you're warm down there too, Nida. I see that the raincoat wasn't required down there, thank goodness.
Not after the second quarter.
Hodges. Getting the tap down. Shoveling it out into the direction now of Salter. He's under pressure from Schwarz. Over at the Albert Noble. The Redlegs by the narrowest of margins. 1 point now. It's one of those classic encounters between two of the traditional rivals of SANFL at the Albert Noble.
Take it easy.
Magpies would love to pinch this one. Brooksby takes it out of the air. On hands and knees. In the tackle there was Paul and taken high. So Paul
Nice kick now.
waiting for something to open up. He's looking around. Bit of a case of twisting by the pull. Goes out on the outer side. Looking down there for Ainger. Plenty of Panthers down here in numbers. Brooksby gets a handball off. They've got runners now through Little. There's a searching handball. Little bit too hot down there for Nathan Daniel. Cruising through was Cross. Spots further up the line. He was looking for Brown. Jared just trying to tap it to his advantage. Good experience in there from Jared, if nothing else. He was getting support from Day also. Creates a stoppage and gets a ball up. That's almost as good as a free in that situation, Andrew.
Yeah, just had to do what he had to do there, Luke. Jared was under pressure. Either work it towards the boundary line, get it over the boundary line, or at least force a stoppage.
Ball down Murphy. Oh, he was just about to kick the ball. Jared got him. Umpire called play on. Schwartz couldn't handle it either. Now a couple of Eagles over the ball and we'll get another ball up. More than halfway now through the last quarter. And the Eagles well on top now after a big third quarter. Byron Sumner taken to ground. Umpire will call for it.
I still think Kenny Brooksby, he won that tap handsomely there. He can just hit the ball forward and try to get somebody running onto it. At least communicate. Get that into space.
Salter off the ground. Thurles with a good take. Caleb Daniel impressive in his first game this afternoon. Ball smothered off the boot of Redagolo, then kicked forward by Roundtree. Big Hartigan over the ball, wants to take it to the boundary line. Succeeds in the end, does he? Yes, just. Doesn't be too bad back there this afternoon, Hartigan.
Well, Ainger hasn't kicked the goal. Ridley hasn't had any impact on the game, so you give him a tick.
Now he's on the Crows list, brought over from the VFL effectively as backup, I guess, as a defender. And we'll get another ball up. Inside forward 50 though for the Eagles.
It's one of those fortunate things for Ron Fuller. He said he'd been trying to get Hartigan to the club anyway for a couple of years and he fell into their lap in the mini draft. Ron's looking pretty relaxed with things at the moment. I suppose there's not much point in giving yourself heartburn when it's 39 points down because at that point there's only so many deck chairs you can shuffle. Very philosophical, Ron Fuller. Panthers look set to sink further to the bottom of the ladder. Roundtree. So effective in the stoppage situations, Roundtree. Until last year when he won that best and fairest, was enormously underrated by many in the SANFL. Real barometer for them. On cue, lays another big tackle. Staple tried to get it out. Powell. Poole. Try saying that one quickly. Working their way through. Back now towards Carey. Carey sends it into towards the attacking zone. Panthers trying to work it out now through Pfeiffer. Tips down the lines. He was looking for Thurles. Big and legal collision back there with Roundtree, who's down behind play. Comes it back in to half back now. Heath just gets the handball out. Nathan Daniel wrapped up there by Hindus. Ball's down the centre of Noarlunga Oval, in dispute, ball up.
Josh Thurles doesn't like a little bit of physical contact. Still, he has had his moments, hasn't he?
Yeah, look, he's always been tough, but he picked a tough nut there as well in Roundtree.
Runner up the best and fairest way back in 2007 at South Adelaide. Josh Thurles, a lot of injuries in his career. Play hard, and sometimes just comes off worse for wear. There he is again, trying to crash in. Been doing by Lewis, Sumner, Heinges. Some good little hand passes finally to Heath, who just was prepared to socket it off the ground. If he picked it up, he was on his wrong side anyway, and he just takes it towards the line. Over there on the far side of the Noarlunga Oval. And if you're an Eagles fan here today, you'd be thinking, well, it was worth the trip down here. You know, things have got better during the day. The weather, their play.
Oh, it's a win they needed to have. They needed to tough out a win and looked in trouble early, but they've certainly been the better side in the second half.
Archie, a little marks in front of Raymond. There's a good stretch by the little man. So up towards the 50 he goes with his kick, and again Wonky with the lead up, but that's happened too few times this afternoon. He hasn't been able to get that one-on-one contest on a lead. He pops it up for Crab. Summerton comes from behind, worries him out of it. Eventually support from Gafrida. High he goes, but that was good enough. And they'll clear their defensive area through Thompson.
Thompson takes a bounce, pokes it further down the line to Poole. So Poole keeping it on that defensive side again. Strong mark in there from Staple, who's gathered touch as the game's gone on. He's been a very effective foil down there for Ainger. Salter's been very good also with the 3. As mentioned, Ainger yet to kick a goal today. Level now with Michael Wonky in the race for the Ken Farmer medal. Panthers should be able to work this out through cross to Caleb Daniel. Shows maturity beyond his years there. Just dances through the pack. Plays further down the line. Looking for Wonky, who was under pressure from Thompson. Roundtree. Back by hand to Raymond. So Raymond, that's too hot down there for Paul. Hardigan will bring it back in. So Kyle Hardigan gets it inboard to Little. Just working off half-back. He's almost stopped now. Brings it back inboard. Yeah, and that probably sums things up for South Adelaide. Where do I go next, says Giddings. Goes long on this outer side. Jared takes the fly over the top. He's in the perfect position. Jared called to play on. Unloads a searching left foot kick. Goldsworthy couldn't quite take it. Good enough to recover. And his father has Hardigan who cuts it off for the Panthers. Gets it back inboard to Caleb Daniel. Over at Alberton. It's Port leading Nord now by 5 points at the 25-minute mark. You would suggest their next goal would just about win that game. Daniel falls over the boundary line. They have a throw in. They were trailing by a point and they just got that goal in the last 30 seconds.
Well, that result's still in doubt, but certainly not this one here. It'll be the Eagles comfortably. In fact, the word from Alberton is the Port Adelaide are back. They've managed to win that match over Norwood, so upsetting their great rivals. And we know that there are possibilities about what will happen with Port Adelaide next season, which might be the last of the traditional games with their traditional rivals.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of water to go under the bridge before that happens, though.
Caleb Daniel puts himself over the ball again. So just confirmation of that result from the Alberton Oval. 5 points the margin in favour of Port Adelaide. They kicked a goal about the 24-minute mark of the final quarter, able to get over the line by 5 points. Here's Carey on the snap, high. That ball has gone higher than it's gone lengthwise, and so as a result the ball comes down, Salter over it. Off to Lewis, great smother. Little brings it away for South Adelaide again with a 1-2. And then the short pass to try and find Murphy, and Jared came late, but Murphy was never going to get it. Wasn't the greatest of deliveries from Little. And if anything, South Adelaide would be disappointed with their efforts when they've had possession this afternoon. Going forward, they haven't made the most of it, Andrew.
Yeah, particularly in the second half, they've just either made some poor options or missed targets, turned the footy over too easy. And generally, they've picked short targets and have missed those. They haven't had the confidence to go down the line and at least try to make a contest further on. The conditions are conducive to that today.
Sumner roved it from the stoppage. A little bit too hot down there for Salter, so Fields will bring it back in. Doesn't matter who you support in football. There are a few more exciting places to be after a win than the Queenstown at Albert Noble. They would be absolutely rocking at the moment. Ken McGregor is adjusting to SANFL coaching pretty well. Almost fell into the arms of Borholm. Youngster there in Haynes, who's shown some maturity today. One key, searching for Archie. Cut off by Roundtree. Numbers just seem to be queuing up everywhere for the Eagles. Goldsworthy sends it up long and direct into the Ainger direction. Staple reads it well off the bottom of the pack. Back to Salter. Back to Staple. Staple looks to centre the ball, looking now for Ainger. Slips through his fingers. He should be good enough to recover and get the handball away, you would think. No, good pressure in there from Little. So Little brings it out into the advantage of Murphy. Outer side of Noarlunga Oval. He's got Brooksby calling for it inboard. Elects to go to Gotch instead. So Gotch playing further down the line. Gets the mark. And the long searching kick down there. Looking for one key. Good work in there from the first gamer in Somerton. And there's the siren. The Eagles, after 2 disappointing weeks, you'll see the relief there on the face of Michael Godden, have come out with a 39-point win here at Noarlunga Oval.
Yes, I think they would be pleased. Michael Godden would be pleased, certainly with the second half. The first half, they were really challenged by Ron Fuller's men, as you see on the screen there. Look, he's not emotional about today. He's going to sit back and analyse this and say, you know, look, we were competitive in the first half, but we can't maintain it for longer. And we've got to find groups and players that are going to compete for longer in this contest. And we'll keep turning players over until we find that. For the Eagles, very positive about the second half. They found some goal-scoring opportunities up forward in Goldsworthy and Solder, but their movement of the footy and the way they went about it was more what we expect from the Eagles, and in the end, their class shone through.
Yeah, certainly they'd be very happy with the third quarter. There's no doubt about that. The third quarter was, I suppose, as we'd say, the premiership quarter, and that's where they probably won it. That's when they kicked 6 goals straight. Let's talk about one of the better players on the ground this afternoon, Kane Mitchell. And he's come obviously off Sandover medal with Claremont in the WAFL. Had 15 possessions this afternoon and 5 marks. Kicked the goal. Hard running player. And perhaps he just run out of a bit of gas this afternoon because of an injury. He's with Benny Knights.
Well, down here, Kane, and not the place you'd probably like to finish the game out, mate, but very quickly, how is the leg?
Yeah, it's a bit sore at the moment, but just icing up, just precautionary. Just got a bit of a kick, so we'll see how it pulls up.
Beautiful. I guess I want to ask you a little bit of a question about coming across from WA last year. Not every day you get the mud and the cold of Noarlunga to playing over there. It's the sand-based grounds, a lot nicer weather.
Yeah, we were talking about it before the game, how many wet ones I've played in, and I think it was probably count them on 2 hands. So, no, it's a bit different over here, but no, good to get in and nice and dirty, so it was just good to get the win, yeah.
Yeah, you loved it, didn't you? You loved the wet. In terms of the game for yourself today, it was a pretty tough first half. They played a pretty tight tag on you. You managed to find some space in that second half before your injury, but it was a tough start to the day.
Yeah, I wasn't really expecting a tag, so it was a bit different, something that I kind of got used to last year, but coming over haven't really got tag much. But yeah, it was good that I worked into it. Had a few tackles, which something that I was concentrating on, so I managed to get into a bit of space in the second half, and yeah, it was just good to get the boys up and a W for the lads.
And as far as the boys go, the second half was outstanding, really broke the game open that third quarter.
Yeah, well, Godsey asked for a huge effort, and I think we lifted, and to the boys' credit, it was just in and under, getting it to the forwards, and we did the job, yeah.
And it must be tough for yourself. I mean, obviously being power listed now and coming back and forth between the SA and AFL must be pretty tough.
Yeah, it is, but having been on the flip side at Claremont last year, I know if you come down with a good attitude and get around the boys, then it just makes it so much easier. The Eagles are a great club and welcome us with open arms, so I couldn't think of a better club to be at, mate.
Well, well done today. Congratulations on the win for the team. Hope the leg recovery goes very well, and good luck with the AFL career as well.
Thank you very much, mate. Cheers.
Kane Mitchell, and yeah, that last statement was almost political. We talk about the reserve sides and that, but no, he certainly found a home at Oval Avenue, and I'm certain that the Eagles will be very glad to have him because he is an important cog going forward. I think probably at AFL level, and certainly at this level, he can play. There's no doubt about that. As I said, Sandover medalist last season. Well, in terms of the highlights early, they were pretty much hard to find, shall we say. South Adelaide set out to play some man-on-man football, and they did it pretty well. I mean, they held back the Eagles and their runners, and we know that the Eagles score on average 99 points a game. They were able to restrict them, but as the match went on, the class of the Eagles won out.
Yeah, certainly the first 15-20 minutes of South was really tough, hard, intense footy, and they were able to maintain that. And just towards the end of the first quarter, they just fell away a little bit, and the Eagles were able to just get their way back into the game. And then in the second quarter, South really dominated the first 15 or 20 minutes, and see Watke kick that goal. And then just the last 5 minutes, just a couple of mistakes, just a bad decision here and there, a missed target, enabled the Eagles to kick a couple of goals and get some confidence and get themselves back into the game.
Yeah, that goal from Heath there was at the 17-minute mark. That was after South Adelaide had got out to a 14-point lead 15 minutes into the second term. By half-time, it was scores locked away. Third quarter was the big quarter. That was the one where South Adelaide let it get away, couldn't concentrate, couldn't keep up with the effort. And as we said, I mentioned the word skills, class, whatever you want to call it, Eagles got away.
And they found some avenues to goals. Nick Solder, who was really well held, he really stepped up in the third quarter and kicked a couple of bombs, actually. And we see one, this I think was his third goal for the quarter. He kicked a couple from just inside 50, and that one there, he just, as I said, is a classy finisher and a great kick for goal. And he really made a difference in that third quarter.
He just coming into the last quarter, Gotch kicking this goal. Now, this goal was at the 9-minute mark of the final quarter, and it was their first goal since the 7-minute mark of the second quarter, and that was on a day when it was wet, a big drought for South Adelaide.
It was, and they really struggled to move the footy well, and they just lacked that little bit of class, but also they didn't hit targets, they refused to really take the game on. It was a real grind, and just this is some highlights, and Matthew Goldsworthy really owned the last quarter. He really had a lot of the play in the last quarter. Kicked 2 goals, took a couple of marks, and you can see there, after the first quarter, they pretty much the Eagles won pretty much every quarter, other than probably the second quarter.
Now, thanks to Corey Ogilvie for this. So halfway through the second term, 15-minute mark of the second term, it was 17 inside 50s for South Adelaide to 8 for the Eagles. And then from then on, 25-14 in favour of the Eagles. So they really did dominate after that. It's reflected on the scoreboard. Scores level at half-time, 33 the margin at three-quarter time, and in the end, 39 points. The victory there for the Eagles. They certainly were able to go on with their efforts in the second half, and South Adelaide were just to a standstill, and they lose their sixth home game of the season. Nick Solder with 3 goals, all of them in the third quarter, leading the way in terms of multiple goal kickers on the ground, and only singles for the Panthers, and they're never able to give some great service to Michael Wanke up forward.
No, they didn't. They really struggled, and you get it as a look at those inside 50s. There's a very low number of inside 50s for this game, so it was played between the arcs. But I thought what happened really in the second half is the Eagles less handball, more kicking the footy, use the footy where they were more efficient with it.
Let's go down to the rooms and the Eagles celebrations.
Sound the sirens and the splits to watch the feathers fly and see what we can do. We're the mighty flying Eagles. We're the mighty flying Eagles. We're the mighty flying Eagles in gold and green and blue.
Well, they take their away record for the season to 3 wins and 2 losses, pretty much indicative of what it's been like, up and down, up and down.
Yeah, it has been. They've really struggled for consistency. And as I said, they've been very good in patches, but also they've been very poor. So today they toughed out the first half and then were able to show their class in the second half.
Benny Knights, that must be the main issue, I guess, for Michael Godden going forward, is to deal with that up and down nature of his side.
I'd assume consistency has been a bit of an issue for you over the past 4 or 5 weeks especially, but you nutted it out in that first half and then really broke the game open in the third quarter today, Gods.
Yeah, I thought there was a few nerves there in that first half, just obviously having a couple of back-to-back losses and knowing that we're going to a bye next week. But it was a reasonably dour contest. Obviously the weather conditions were pretty tough, but the guys stuck at it, and I thought that third quarter we started to get a hold of it and started to see a little bit of that run that we were seeing a month ago.
Yeah, I put it down probably in that third quarter a little bit to the hard nuts of your team, the guys that you rely upon a lot, who started getting their hands on the footy through the centre, the blokes like Lewis and Goldsworthy and so forth.
Yeah, absolutely. That's we're rotating a fair few through there at the moment because we've got some young guys that need a bit of time in there. So yeah, but we just went back to our old stages and they started to win the contested footy. And as I said, at three-quarter time, it's what we need to do.
God's Neil Cross upstairs. Where are you as a club at the moment in terms of, the personnel that you've got available and that confidence level, given, as you said, the 2 losses and not a very convincing win, I would say, this afternoon, or at least not a 4-quarter effort?
Yeah, Crossy, we're not exactly pumped with today's effort, but we're 6-4, and last year I think we were 3-7 at the halfway mark, so it's much better. But yeah, we lost a lot of really quality players at the end of last year, and we've blooded. I think we played our 40th player today, and we've had to rotate a lot of players. You've got Craig Parry, Chris Hall. You just go on and on. Adam Grokey, Jared Orman, all injured at the moment, so we're struggling for consistency from a selection point of view, and the players are doing their very best. And look, we would love to have been 7-3. We're 6-4, so we're 1 behind the 8 ball.
Hey, Godsey, where's your biggest area for improvement? You're probably a little bit marginally below the Norths and Norwoods and the West, although you have beaten them. Where do you think you need to improve to really push up towards that premiership? To make that premiership realistic.
Yeah, I think scores against is a big thing. We're getting some big scores kicked against us. We've been kicking some big scores, but today, obviously, to hold them to, I think, 33 points was a really good target for us, and we did that. So consistency will come with just being able to be relentless from a defensive point of view, and we've probably in this first half of the year gone a little bit offensive, so we'll continue to work through that in the middle of the season. And look, we believe we've got a fair bit of improvement left in us, just from an individual standpoint, just every player getting better. So hopefully that helps, but consistency clearly is the issue at the moment. We're going to buy to have a rest this week, and then we back up against Port that I believe had a good win today.
They did indeed, Godsey. They won by just the 5 points over Norwood down at Alberton, so they'll be confident. But in terms of your team, though, it's an interesting point that you made there before when you said that you turned at 3-7 last year. This season, are you happier at 6-4? That looks good, but are you happier with the resolve of the team that simply early last season wasn't there?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we had some more senior players last year, so we had quite a good list. I think we averaged nearly 100 games per player, and beat it 3-7. We're down to probably averaging 20 or 30 games per player. So we've lost 2 or 3 seasons average. So to be 6-4, I should be happy, but I'm still. I still want to be 8-2. But yeah, anyway, 6-4, I'll take it. Have a week off.
And God, speaking of that week off now, what is the plan? You've got a couple of sore boys, no doubt. They'll appreciate the rest after a pretty heavy run out here today. So what's the plan for the next couple of weeks before you front up against Port?
Yeah, so we'll do a recovery on Monday and then train Wednesday, and we'll give them the Friday, Saturday, Sunday off because we've got an 8-game stretch after this leading into another bye before we have 2 before the finals. So 8 games is going to be pretty tough to handle in the middle of winter, so we need to rest up the boys' body and mind and make sure we come into the second half of the year fresh and ready to go.
Well, good luck with that second half of the year. We appreciate your time and your effort today coming around and helping out on ABC TV. Be good to get Craig Parry back at some stage too. He's pretty important too.
Yeah, he's a reasonable player.
Good luck, guys. Thanks, mate.
Thanks, mate.
Just a little bit understated there, Michael Godden, but clearly he knows he's got some work in front of him, but he's certainly got the personnel. I think we all know that as well, and I'm sure he's very warm in the rooms because the temperature up here has dropped another 5 degrees in the last few minutes. All right, let's go to some of the better players we thought this afternoon. Chris Kane made the move from the Bay across to the Eagles. He's starting to find a little bit of form. Mostly around the packs is where he got his 12 hand passes this afternoon. Only had the 5 kicks.
Yeah, he plays his role. He's not outside runner that's going to run and bounce and have 15 and kick long goals, but he knows his role. He's a tough hard nut inside, and he complements the group through his hardness, his tackling, but also he's really got a really competitive nature.
You see those hard nuts. They've got Roundtree, they've got Powell, they've got guys like Kane who can come in. So another player, small, developing, and a Magarey medalist in the reserves last season, Angus Poole. And he had 18 possessions this afternoon and kicked the 2 behinds, had 4 marks as well.
Yeah, he's just a developing player. You know, with the loss of Sikalella, McKenzie and those type of players, it's enabled opportunities for these type of players. And he's more of a forward on baller, so he needs to work hard on his tackling and keep the ball in the forward line, but also, you know, start to develop himself to move through the midfield and give some respite to some of these the Luke Powells who have been banging and crashing in there for years.
Another player who we talked about, Matty Goldsworthy, narrowing in on 100 goals in his career. He's played this is his 83rd game this afternoon. Lots of experience now. Be important for them going forward. Didn't have his best game, 21 possessions, 6 marks, 2 goals. Maybe a little slow to start, but he's certainly the future.
Oh, look, he's one of my favourite players at the Eagles because he's a footballer's footballer. He actually is not gifted. He can't run all day. He hasn't got fantastic pace. He's just footy smart, and that's what I like about him. Is he does get, He's very clean with his hands, makes good decisions with the footy.
Our other award this afternoon, mark of the day, Brad Crabb, who certainly early on provided a good contest for South Adelaide up at centre-half forward.
Yeah, I thought he was really strong early. You can see there was a great mark over the top, but he really competed strongly and gave them a presence and someone to go to with confidence in the forward line to the very worst bring it forward, but he was very honest in his competition.
All right, so that's the result from this afternoon that we were looking at there. 39 points, the Eagles over South Adelaide. In many ways expected, as we said, the Panthers without a win at home this season. Down at Alberton, though, somewhat of an upset, I think, certainly. That Port Adelaide getting over Norwood by 5 points. We know they scored that goal just in the closing moments of the game. Tomorrow, the games to come, Sturt against Glenelg, North against Central District. Let's go down to chat with the boys on the boundary and Chris and Nida. And firstly, bad day for South Adelaide, unquestionably. And you just wonder how much further they are going to be able to go this season, Chris.
Oh, look, it's a major concern, Crossy. You've got to say that. And look, Nida, really, the gap between their best and their worst is a major issue for them at the moment. I mean, you see they get corralled in defence a lot there. The turnovers are just too easy in these sorts of situations. And look, the errors they're making for a team coached by Ron Fuller are almost inexcusable.
Yeah, a lot of the errors they made today too were making mistakes with the brain as well as with the disposal errors. So, short kicks to dangerous spots, balls going across the ground, not carrying the distance. There's a big worry, I think, for Ron Fuller and South Adelaide. They're making mistakes that really they shouldn't be putting them in that position in the first place.
One player interesting to watch this afternoon in his debut, and he's already wearing a helmet too, Andrew, I must say, was Caleb Daniel when he got tackled. And he got a head knock at one stage and was taken off the ground. And then there was Kane Mitchell with this sling tackle. We're going to hear more of that, Chris.
Look, I don't think so, to be honest. I think the idea of the sling tackle, the problem, Knightsy, is that they've actually got to finish the tackle more than anything else. So what is a player supposed to do in that situation? Do they get to that point and suddenly drop the player altogether? I think the sling tackle idea is getting a little bit ahead of things. I don't really think they should go.
Yeah, I don't think that's necessarily the dangerous one. It's where the ball's been knocked out there.
Yep.
The player tackling was unaware of that, finished the tackle off like you said. It wasn't the one where he's been slung dangerously, I think, into other players and, into the ground heavily to make that direct impact.
Yep.
Andrew, your thoughts on that?
I always taught a different way to tackle, so I suppose I'm not really. I'm in the Malcolm Blight mould where you drop to your knees and you really just stay in the tackle. So I don't like the advent of the sling tackle.
It's perhaps more intent on hurting players these days, I should think, when you tackle players. All right, let's leave that alone and move on. Let's talk about Luke Powell last week. Nida, interesting, his banner.
Absolutely. Quite a few people picked up on the fact that he was running out for his 200th game. The banner was in tatters because of the rain, nothing to do with the construction. But Luke Powell running around the banner, as we can see there, and I spoke to him before the game and said, is that something that he'd always done? A bit of a superstition maybe?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's probably something, I think, for the last 10 years, every time I've had a banner, I've just never felt the need to run through it. Probably more for the fact that I'll end up tripping over. But no, it's something I probably started doing and continued on. So it was nothing against the people that made the banner. I just didn't want to look like an idiot running through it. So.
Beautiful. And I also hear that, Gods, you've never run through a banner in your time at the club or when you were playing back in the days either.
No, man, I never got one for a 200 game though. So maybe I would have run through it if I got a 200 gamer.
Beautiful. It's not coach's instruction there, boys. Not coach's instruction, but very interesting that both coach and superstar 200 gamer both run around the banner.
Yeah, it'd be very interesting if it ever came to it, whether he'd run through a banner leading a side on in a grand final. Anyway, again, we'll move on. Let's go back to Western Norwood last week. Big start from Norwood, 9-1, I think it was, in the opening quarter. Andrew, just quickly, were they that awful?
I don't think they were that awful. I think a little bit of combination of the two. I think that West lacked that energy and really drive when they really see there, just that energy there that Hartlett didn't show. Some mistakes coming out of the fence, and Norwood pressure. Norwood were up for this game, and I think it probably showed a little bit today that they were really up for last week's game and didn't have the same build-up for the Magpies and paid the penalty. Okay,
next week, as we just watched the end of Mark Evans kicking a goal, but it certainly set up the season, the fact that they're beaten today. Port Adelaide now right in the mix. As we look forward to next week, though, Chris, North Adelaide taking on Sturt. Certainly Sturt has a pretty good record recently, I guess in the past few years over North Adelaide, but certainly not this season, beaten by 26 points in round 3.
Yeah, but in saying that, Neil, they were 9 points up at half-time of that game, so they certainly were pretty good in the first half of the journey, but that probably sums up where Sturt's season is at, Nodder, isn't it? Very good first halves, and apart from last week against the Eagles, they struggled to put that second half together, but at their best, Sturt can really push North Adelaide. In fact, they can push any team in the competition at their best for 4 quarters.
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. They've got some very dangerous players. We know big Matty Doherty doesn't look as though he's up and about all the time, but geez, he can kick some goals, and the dangerous guys like McIntyre and so forth. One fella in this game who really tore Sturt apart was Lewis Johnston, who kicked 7, I think, by memory, and he won't be there next week with that knee injury, so that's a big out for North Adelaide and probably a boost for Sturt.
Yeah, look, I think, I agree. Lewis Johnston's a significant target up forward. Sturt coming off a good win, against the Eagles, a nice bye. North Adelaide just don't want to take their foot off the pedal. We saw them against the Bays, just play, 2 quarters of footy and get away with a win. Against the Double Blues, they're going to have to be on their game.
So there was the last time they met, 17 goals, 16 to 14-8, and most of the 17-16, as we mentioned, was scored in the second half. So Double Blues, though, last week, well, they've showed what they're certainly capable of, and North Adelaide certainly in the top 3, we think, to stay this season. We'll have a look at Caleb Daniel again. We mentioned that he did cop a heavy knock early. That was after he'd had 4 or 5 early possessions, and he's only a little guy, and he's come through the ranks here at South Adelaide. And besides anything else, that's great to see, Chris.
Look, it certainly is. Played 16s, 18s, reserves, and now seniors in the space of 12 months. So his rise has been meteoric. And look, sometimes you take a bit of a punt as a coach and you bring some of the young kids in, but it's fair to say that Nodder, he repaid this in spades. He was really good all day. Even after copping 2 heavy knocks, he didn't drop his endeavour all day. And look, I think he's one of South's best today.
Yeah, he certainly was one of South's best. His energy levels were up and about all day. He was outstanding. His second and third efforts we see here again. That's what Ron Fuller needs more of. And the fact that you've got a 16-year-old leading the way is maybe, again, highlighting the concerns that Ron Fuller does have had down here at South Adelaide.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, boys, thanks for your company this afternoon. I know you're getting chilly down there, Nighty. You can go and put on your big overcoat that you brought with you.
Certainly will. It's been a refreshing day.
Refreshing, good word. All right, we'll see you next week when we cross to Prospect. A little closer to home for us.
Thanks, Crossy.
Okay, and as we look forward to that game, again, we've got to take form lines here. North Adelaide in the top 3. We expect they'll stay there. Double Blues at Prospect is an enticing encounter, and one will be very hard to actually pick a winner until maybe halfway through the third quarter.
I think it'll be contrasting to today's game. This will be open and free-flowing and highly skilled, and I reckon high-scoring as well. So if you want to watch a game of footy, I reckon, life's competitive, but also some outside footy. You'll see some goals kicked next week with these two teams.
Okay, join us for that one from 2 o'clock Saturday afternoon on ABC One. And then the other matches, which we'll keep you in touch with, Norwood against South Adelaide at Norwood, and then Central's taking on Port Adelaide at Elizabeth. There is one Sunday game, and that's down at the Bay. They always get a good crowd down there at the Bay, so we'll have a look at that one on Sunday. Glenelg against West Adelaide, the Eagles having the bye. Reminder of what's coming up on Grandstand Sport on ABC One from 5 to 2 tomorrow, or is that next week? I'm losing my dates. No, it is tomorrow. 5 to 2 tomorrow. It's international friendly between Australia and New Zealand. The women's teams going at it, and we will have that coverage from Canberra. And that is tomorrow afternoon. Just confirming that my dates are right now. I was getting ahead of myself and then behind. Anyway, big win to this afternoon for the Eagles, mainly through the third quarter, and they won it by 39 points. We hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you next Saturday afternoon at Prospect.
Started with a raid on a former police station taken over by squatters. Several spontaneous protests from anti-G8 demonstrators kept police guessing.
This is just the first of many G8 protests to come, not just here in London. The